Chapter 1948. The purple lightning struck again, and the demon phoenix's expression turned solemn. The cultivators around the array also became nervous. They also wanted to see how strong the third wave of numinous treasures were, since they had such a strong resistance. The light beam in the air suddenly released several Hong Meng auras, and a vigorous invading force spread out from it. After a period of preparation, the purple lightning once again struck toward the light beam. Chi! The purple lightning and the light beam collided, and an extremely strong Hong Meng aura was released at the point of contact. It was like the radiance of the moon, and immediately covered the entire great array. Seeing this, Long Chun frowned and said, "The demon phoenix can't be taken down." Just from the invading force released by the light beam before, the third wave of spiritual treasures was not something that could be taken down by an ordinary person. In the air, the demon phoenix controlled the purple lightning in its hand to entangle with the light beam. The spiritual treasure light pattern released by the light beam became more and more intense, and the invading force it contained gradually increased. This entanglement lasted for nearly half a minute. As time passed, the purple lightning in the demon phoenix's hand gradually faded, and it quickly lost its previous sharp aura. The invading force released by the light beam did not decrease, but increased instead, as if it was endless. Humph! The demon phoenix persevered until this moment, and its expression suddenly changed. The purple lightning in its hand instantly disappeared, and it directly leaped up, leaving the great array without any hesitation. The demon phoenix actually gave up on this spiritual treasure? This surprised Long Chun. He did not expect that the most powerful demon phoenix in the Long Meng polar region would retreat in the third wave of spiritual treasures. After the demon phoenix retreated, although the people around the great array were eager to try, they did not dare to make a move for a long time. After all, even the demon phoenix, who was naturally immune to the suppression of the dragon clan's bloodline, had failed in the third round of the competition for the spiritual treasure, let alone the dragon-born demons who had been enduring the suppression of their bloodline. After leaving the great array, the demon phoenix's expression was somewhat desolate. She shook her head at the great array, before leaping up once again and flying towards the exit. It seemed that the demon phoenix had given up. The cultivators who were still around the array looked at the numinous treasures that were less than 10 feet away from them with mixed feelings. Jian Shisan said excitedly, "Master, it seems that the third wave of spiritual treasures is going to be difficult." Long Chun nodded and said, "Indeed, I'm a little curious. What are these spiritual treasures hidden in the light beams?" Jian Shisan made a bold prediction. "They're definitely not the armed guards, armor, robes, or weapons from before. I reckon that they should be the natal spiritual treasures created by the Hong Meng Tianjing powerhouses 100,000 years ago. Maybe there are still artifact spirits living in them." The so-called natal spiritual treasures were a method that the powerhouses of the Hong Meng Tianjing could use to control spiritual treasures. Intuitively speaking, it was to form a certain connection between the spiritual treasure and the owner. This process was called refining, and it was something that only the powerhouses of the Hong Meng Tianjing could do. After the refining was successful, the spiritual treasure would become the owner's natal spiritual treasure. After that, the owner could directly control his natal spiritual treasure with an extremely small amount of mind and make it complete the owner's goal. Moreover, what was even more shocking was that even if the natal spiritual treasure was thousands of miles away from the owner, as long as the owner's mind moved, the natal spiritual treasure could directly move. Therefore, most of the powerhouses of the Hong Meng Tianjing would choose to refine their natal spiritual treasures. For example, the long sword in Jian Shisan's hand and the robe on Shifeng's body had already been refined into natal spiritual treasures. However, it was very unwise to refine spiritual treasures like weapons and robes into natal spiritual treasures. After all, as long as the long sword was held in the hand, most of its power could be exerted, and the robe could be controlled. To a large extent, The real powerhouses chose to refine spiritual treasures that contained some mysteries and were not convenient to carry around in battle. Only such natal spiritual treasures could give the enemy a fatal blow at the most critical moment. Long Chen smiled slightly and said, "If it's really a natal spiritual treasure, then it's going to be interesting." Soon after the demon phoenix left, a figure flew out from the crowd of cultivators who had been silent for a long time and went straight to the top of the great array. "The Dragon Lion clan can't hold back anymore," Jian Shisan said slowly as he looked at the figure that rushed to the top of the great array. Long Chen's eyes were deep as he said, "I guess they can't bear the bloodline suppression here and want to make a last attempt." The Dragon Lion's aura was strong, and from the very beginning, he had a determined expression. Just as everyone was curious about whether he could successfully obtain the spiritual treasure in less than 10 breaths, the Dragon Lion had completely retreated from Hong Meng and returned to the starting point with his tail between his legs. The crowd originally wanted to fool him, but unexpectedly, not long after the Dragon Lion retreated, an extremely strong Dragon Clan bloodline suppression burst out between heaven and earth. It turned out that the Dragon Lion was forcibly suppressed by the Dragon Clan bloodline power that suddenly burst out. The Dragon Lion could not be blamed for this. After all, he had the Dragon Clan bloodline in his body, and this was not something he could decide. What's more, even the Demon Phoenix, who did not have the Dragon Clan bloodline in her body, had failed. It was understandable that the Dragon Clan Demon Clan had failed. When the Dragon Tribe bloodline suppression that suddenly burst forth dissipated, many cultivators lost their will. In addition to the rich bloodline suppression around the Great Array, a portion of the cultivators directly chose to leave this Great Array. Rather than wasting time here, they might as well go to the edge of the ancient battlefield and try their luck. Who knows, they might be able to pick up 1 or 2 spiritual treasures that no one had discovered in the past 100,000 years. In this way, more and more practitioners had this idea, and the crowd around the great array gradually thinned out. Long Chen looked at the Dragon Python clan in the distance and thought, the Dragon Python clan leader can still hold back? Finally, after several practitioners who wanted to leave failed in their last attempt, the Dragon Python clan, who had always chosen to watch the fire burn across the river, finally could not resist the temptation of the spiritual treasure and made a move. It was a burly dragon python cultivator. The moment he rose into the air and rushed toward the big formation, Long Chen was sure that this person was the Dragon Python clan leader without a doubt. Chapter 1949. The Hong Meng energy around the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was fluctuating. He looked at the beam of light in the air with a fierce look in his eyes. A few long green whips appeared in his palms. With a sudden lash, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan soared into the air and rushed toward the beam of light. The cultivators around the array could not help but hold their breaths when they saw this scene. There was a slight expectation in their eyes. Perhaps these people only knew that it was a cultivator from the Dragon Python clan who was attacking, but they did not know that this cultivator was the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan himself. But no matter what, since the people of the 4 major demon clans were attacking, the cultivators around the array would not interfere. Seeing the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan suddenly attack, Long Chen smiled slightly. "Master, what do you think his chances are?" Jian Shisan was a little flustered, as if he was afraid that the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan could get his hands on the spiritual treasure. Long Chen shook his head and said, "It's hard to say. But, according to my estimation, even if the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan is prepared, his chances of success are less than 50%. 50%? Jian Shisan heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That's a pretty good chance." Above the array, there were a total of 7 beams of light flowing out from the golden light cluster, all of which had spiritual treasure light inscriptions. Previously, most of the cultivators who had tried to attack the first beam of light with the strongest spiritual treasure light inscriptions were helpless. But the invading force of that beam of light was too fierce, and coupled with the increasing suppression of the Dragon clan bloodline above the array, the cultivators who had tried to attack the first beam of light had all returned empty-handed. But now, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's target was not the strongest beam of light with the spiritual treasure light inscriptions, but the few beams of light far away from the array. Seeing the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's behavior, Long Chen shook his head and said, "The dignified stage 8 Hong Meng Tianjing dares not even try the strongest beam of light with the spiritual treasure light inscriptions." Jian Shisan paused and said, "Master, if that's the case, what are the chances of the Dragon Python Patriarch succeeding?" Long Chen shrugged and said, "If he can't take down the other beams with his strength of Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 8, then he shouldn't be the Patriarch." Hearing this, Jian Shisan's heart stirred. Long Chen hurriedly said, "Don't worry, the momentum of this golden light ball has not dissipated. Even if the Dragon Python Patriarch has obtained all the spiritual treasures in this wave, there will definitely be another wave." Jian Shisan heaved a sigh of relief. Just as Long Chen had expected, when the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan approached the formation, he used the green whip in his hand to directly pull the weaker light beams from the spiritual treasure into his hand. As for the invading force, it was as if he had completely ignored it. In the eyes of the Dragon Python clan's bloodline suppression above the formation, it was as if it was nothing. This caused the cultivators around the array to be somewhat puzzled. However, what was the use of being puzzled here? That person was a practitioner of the Dragon Python clan. Almost in the blink of an eye, the 4 beams of light above the formation were firmly grasped by the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan. The clan leader of the Dragon Python clan was satisfied. After he had controlled the 4 beams of light, he immediately turned around and flashed away, forcibly stripping the 4 beams of light from above the formation. As for what kind of spiritual treasure was in the 4 beams of light, no one knew. After the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan returned, there were still 3 beams of light above the formation. Without exception, the invading force contained in these 3 beams of light above the formation was far greater than that of the 4 beams that the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan had plundered. It was not easy to obtain them easily. However, even so, there were still people around the formation who were eager to give it a try. Soon, a series of attempts were made, but all of them ended in failure. At this time, Long Chen released a Hong Meng aura and said to Jian Shisan, "Shisan, wait here. I'll try." Jian Shisan paused and said, "Master, do you want me to go?" "I don't have." Before Jian Shisan could finish his words, Long Chen waved his hand and forcibly interrupted him. "Save some of your strength. I'm afraid that after I get those spiritual treasures, others will attack us." Only now did Sword 13 understand tacitly. After all, anything could happen in this ancient battlefield, and the battle on the Grand Formation from before was already shocking enough. Moreover, the Dragon Python clan had been waiting by the side. Even though the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan had plundered the 4 beams of light, the Dragon Python clan still did not leave. Obviously, they still had a plan. As soon as his voice fell, the Hong Meng aura around Long Chen rose again. Then, among the eager crowd around the formation, Long Chen's figure swept into the air and directly rushed to the top of the formation. The people around the formation immediately looked like they were watching a show. They could sense clearly that Long Chen's strength was just that of a Hong Meng Yuan Jie. After all, even the Hong Meng Tianjing experts were helpless against the 3 beams of light, let alone a mere Hong Meng Yuan Jie. In the distance, when the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan saw Long Chen take action, he could not help but snort coldly. His expression was full of ridicule. Long Chen did not pay any attention to the ridicule and doubts around him. Long Chen, who was already floating above the formation, slowly approached the 3 beams of light. The Hong Meng around his body burst out continuously, and the heavenly dragon bloodline in his body was also operating to the extreme at this moment. Kill! Long Chen suddenly pushed, and a surge of Hong Meng power bombarded the foremost beam of light. Seeing this scene, the doubts around the formation became even more intense. In addition to the doubts, the practitioners were also curious. Where did this Hong Meng Yuanjie's confidence come from? The foremost beam of light was a failure of the demon phoenix. The Dragon Lion clan was also helpless against it, and the Dragon Python clan had to avoid its sharp edge. The clan leader of the Dragon Python clan shook his head and muttered, "You overestimate yourself." Long Chen did not know what the others were thinking. At this time, although Long Chen was taking action against the foremost beam of light, Long Chen's most fundamental goal was the golden light ball that was spreading these beams of light. Ever since Long Chen came to the center of the ancient battlefield, he had always had a question. This question was something that the practitioners of the demon clan present had never paid attention to. However, in Long Chen's view, this was precisely the greatest mystery of the ancient battlefield. As long as he could figure out this question, not to mention these few spiritual treasures, even the entire ancient battlefield would be in Long Chen's hands. The question was, what exactly did the golden light ball above the formation look like? Chapter 1950. It was the peerless Dragon Emperor. Thinking of this, Long Chen withdrew the Hong Meng that he had placed on the light beam. At the same time, he circulated the heavenly dragon power to the extreme. Then, Long Chen released the Hong Meng that he had withdrawn. This time, it was aimed at the golden light ball. Kill! The vigorous Hong Meng power directly crashed into the golden light ball. In the blink of an eye, the golden light ball released an extremely strong Hong Meng storm. With itself as the center, it raged in all directions. Boom! Because the golden light ball had been bombarded by Long Chen, the Hong Meng storm that swept out not only contained the pure Hong Meng Qi, but also the invading force that had always existed. For a moment, the people around the large formation were wrapped by the invading force. They could not help but feel pain. Is he crazy? Why did he attack the large formation's core? Does he want to die? Don't tell me he wants to drag me to death too? Let's go. Long Chen's actions immediately enraged the cultivators around the large formation. At the same time, these cultivators could not understand why Long Chen did not plunder the light beams in the air. Why did he have to attack the mysterious golden light ball? It should be known that the golden light ball was definitely not an ordinary object since it could release such a powerful invading force. Jian Shisan circulated the sword power around his body to resist the invading force released by the golden light ball above the large formation. In the air, Long Chen was still continuously releasing the Hong Meng Qi toward the golden light ball. His expression was extremely solemn. From the previous probing, Long Chen had already obtained some of the mysteries of the golden light ball. This also allowed Long Chen to confirm some of his previous conjectures. Not only did the golden light ball store countless Dao spiritual treasures, but more importantly, there was a faintly discernible living being in the golden light ball. A living being that could survive in this ancient battlefield for 100,000 years was definitely not an ordinary being. Long Chen was firm in this belief. He attacked the golden light ball even more fiercely. Even with the invading force that was like a giant mountain pressing down on his body, Long Chen's expression did not change. He continued to release the Hong Meng Qi around his body again and again, bombarding the golden light ball in the distance. What was even more shocking was that Long Chen's body moved a lot closer to the golden light ball during the interval between the attacks. Watching this scene from afar, the Dragon Python clan leader could not help but frown. There was a look of fear on his face, but more than that, there was a sense of disdain that came from his bones. With the strength of a mere Hong Meng Yuanjie, you want to gain control of this large formation? You're really overestimating yourself. The Dragon Python clan leader snorted coldly, the corners of his mouth rising slowly. Jian Shisan did not know what Long Chen was trying to do, but he trusted Long Chen from the bottom of his heart. Jian Shisan firmly believed that no matter what attempt Long Chen made, he would definitely succeed. The final reward would be even more amazing. Long Chen was getting closer and closer to the golden light ball. Although the invading force that was wrapped around him was getting stronger, it could not stop Long Chen's advance. Bursts of Hong Meng transformed into the purest and strongest power, bombarding the golden light ball continuously. The evil ball of light seemed to be shocked by Long Chen's actions. Perhaps it was because in the past thousands of years, there had never been anyone like Long Chen who ignored the light beam numinous treasures at his fingertips and attacked the golden ball of light at the core of the great array instead of the light beam numinous treasures. Long Chen once again moved a distance away, his eyes suddenly releasing a stern look. At the same time, Long Chen released an extremely violent Hong Meng suppressive force around his body, which actually wrapped around the golden light ball in an instant. In the next moment, the golden light ball burst forth with an invading force that swept over the large formation, causing the entire large formation to tremble faintly. Under the dull tremor, the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline in the central area suddenly rose, and most of the demons with dragon descent who were present fell to the ground. Long Chen, who was in midair, saw this scene and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. In the blink of an eye, the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline and the invading force in the golden light ball suddenly disappeared, replaced by an extremely strong pulling force. Before the pulling force spread to Long Chen's side, Long Chen took the initiative to rush toward the golden light ball. The two forces converged, and in an instant at most, Long Chen's entire body sank into the golden light ball. In the next moment, the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline around the large formation suddenly disappeared, and the invading force gradually decreased. The golden light ball became a little dim, as if it had gone through a nirvana. Above the large formation, the light beams that had spread out earlier also lost the support of the invading force. The surrounding light gradually receded, and the spiritual treasures of various shapes and sizes began to take shape. However, the cultivators around the large formation were not that interested in the light beams that revealed the light patterns of the spiritual treasures. They were more curious about what had just happened. The person who seemed to have no regard for his life above the large formation, the person who had done something that no one had ever done for thousands of years, had actually disappeared. Had he really entered the golden light ball, or had he been killed by the golden light ball? Master! Seeing this scene, Jian Shisan's heart immediately tightened, and the sword force around him trembled slightly. The cultivators around the large formation looked at the light beams floating above the large formation, which had lost much of their invading force. They were somewhat eager to give it a try, and they could not help but discuss it. Did that person just now go in? He should have been killed by the large formation. The light beams now no longer have their original invading force. Does anyone dare to follow me? No one answered. At this time, even if there was a spiritual treasure in front of them, no one was willing to be the first to stand out in front of such a mysterious and unpredictable large formation. Seeing this scene, the expression of the Dragon Python clan leader changed abruptly, and the original contempt disappeared. Then, Hong Meng burst out from the Dragon Python clan leader's body, and his figure soared into the air. Then, layers of Hong Meng chi radiated from his body, and he also rushed toward the golden light ball. It seemed that the Dragon Python clan leader, like Long Chen, had some other thoughts about the golden light ball. Clang! Just when the Dragon Python clan leader's figure was a few feet away from the golden light ball, the golden light directly released a powerful invading force, and directly bombarded the Dragon Python clan leader. With a loud bang, the Dragon Python clan leader's figure was directly pushed back by this invading force. Chapter 1951. The huge impact landed heavily on the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. Even with the strength of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, It was difficult for him to withstand the impact. He could only fly backward and stabilize his mind. After the dragon python patriarch landed on the ground, his expression became gloomy. The way he looked at the golden light ball in the air became somewhat terrifying. The rest of the dragon python cultivators quickly came over and surrounded the dragon python patriarch. The patriarch of the dragon pythons breathed a sigh of relief after calming down the chaotic primordial aura in his body. Then, in a low voice, he said to the dragon pythons around him, "Don't attack for now." The other dragon python practitioners quickly nodded. After the practitioners around the formation saw the dragon python patriarch make a move, they were even less interested in the spiritual treasures above the formation. No matter how good the spiritual treasures were, they had to be alive to use them. However, there was also a piece of good news for the practitioners waiting around the formation. The power of the Dragon Clan's bloodline that had been lingering around the Great Formation had disappeared after Long Chen's collision. Although there were still some invasive forces released from the dark golden light ball from time to time, without the suppression of the Dragon Clan's bloodline, it meant that as long as the entire ancient battlefield did not collapse, they could continue to stay here. Jian Shisan moved closer to the formation, and the sword chi around him rang. The moment Long Chen came into contact with the golden light ball, Long Chen was surprised to find that the seemingly violent and strong Hong Meng Qi released from the golden light ball dissipated the moment he came into contact with the golden light ball. Then, Long Chen was enveloped by the golden light ball, and he could not help but close his eyes. When Long Chen regained his composure and opened his eyes, what appeared in front of Long Chen was a completely different scene from before. This was a resplendent space with no end in sight. It was filled with the same golden light balls that had appeared above the formation. These golden light balls wandered aimlessly in this resplendent space, and there were some Hong Meng Qi auras around them. Compared to the golden light balls above the formation, the golden light balls in this resplendent space were much softer. Long Chen slowly walked a few steps, and while feeling the Hong Meng Qi around him, he muttered to himself, "Is this the center of the formation?" Long Chen tried to release his mind to bless the golden light balls that floated in front of him. Soon, Long Chen received a response. These golden light balls were all spiritual treasures. Sword, stone hammer, spirit tablet, Taoist robe. What is this place? Even though so many soul treasures had appeared before Long Chen, he did not have much interest in them right now. Instead, he was extremely curious about the origins of the soul treasures and how they had appeared. Moreover, when he recalled the chi of living beings that he had sensed earlier, Long Chen was even more eager to find out the secret of this formation. Long Chen slowly walked toward the golden light balls. In the resplendent space, there seemed to be no end. As for those golden balls of light, they were boundless. If these golden light balls appeared outside, wouldn't the entire Long Meng polar region go crazy? Suddenly, just as Long Chen was about to approach one of the golden light balls, there was a violent vibration in Hong Meng in this resplendent space. The golden light balls floating in the air suddenly stopped their aimless movements, and slowly gathered together. Then, these golden light balls released a strong chi of extermination, and went straight for Long Chen. Presumably, this was the entire formation's defense against intruders. However, this defense was too weak for Long Chen. Whether it was the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline or the power of invasion, Long Chen could deal with them perfectly. If the power of these golden light balls was pure Hong Meng Qi, Long Chen would not have such confidence. Fortunately, as Long Chen had expected, the most important means of the attack of these golden light balls was the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline. Long Chen smiled slightly, and directly released the power of the heavenly dragon bloodline around him, forming a strength barrier in front of him. The attack of the golden light balls fell on the strength barrier that Long Chen had cast. Almost in an instant, these seemingly surging chi attacks dissipated. After resisting the attack of the golden light balls, Long Chen was even more curious. The Great War 100,000 years ago was a battle between the human clan cultivators and the dragon clan cultivators in the three polar regions. As everyone knew, the dragon clan believed in the power of the bloodline and would not refine spiritual treasures at all. In other words, these spiritual treasures should have been left behind by the human clan cultivators who participated in the Great War 100,000 years ago. Then, if these spiritual treasures were used by the human clan cultivators, why did these spiritual treasures have the power of the dragon clan bloodline? Although the power of the dragon clan's bloodline couldn't be considered strong, it was still the power of the dragon clan's bloodline. After the golden light balls dissipated their power, they returned to their previous aimless journey. Long Chen continued to walk into the depths of the resplendent space. In the vast expanse there was no end in sight. Long Chen did not have any interest in the spiritual treasures floating in the air. Now, the most important thing was to figure out the mystery of this resplendent space and find the way out. After walking for an unknown period of time, Long Chen finally seemed to see the end in front of him. The so-called end was a Hong Meng imprint that stood in the void in this resplendent space. This imprint was not surrounded by golden light balls. It stood there quietly, as if it had not changed for 10,000 years. Long Chen slowly approached this imprint and put his arm on it. At that moment, Long Chen sensed an extremely ferocious and dense life energy. This life force was the life force that Long Chen had sensed when he was above the Great Formation. What kind of creatures were the ancient battlefield's creatures? The human clan, the dragon clan, or others? After the Great War, why did they stay in this ancient battlefield for 100,000 years? Long Chen put his palm on the imprint. In an instant, the Hong Meng imprint released a layer of surging and buzzing Hong Meng invading force. Along with this invading force was a buzzing sound that echoed incessantly. Long Chen operated his Hong Meng aura and heavenly dragon power to the extreme, not daring to relax for a moment. On the Hong Meng imprint, another invading force burst forth. In an instant, the resplendent space was turned upside down. Chapter 1952. When Long Chen calmed down, he realized that the space he was in had changed in an instant. The original golden light ball had disappeared, and even the bright space had changed its appearance. Now, Long Chen was surrounded by a sealed inner room, which looked like a dilapidated cave. There was almost no light inside, and the darkness was boundless. Descendant of the Dragon Clan, suddenly, a voice rang out from the pitch-black cave. It gave Long Chen quite a fright. By the time Long Chen reacted to the situation, the voice sounded once again. Descendant of the Dragon Clan, this call was for the descendant of the Dragon Clan. Long Chen reacted slightly and immediately came to a realization. He had the blood of the heavenly dragon in his body, so he could be considered as a descendant of the Dragon Clan. But who was calling him? Where was this cave? Long Chen had his suspicions. In order to get to the bottom of this matter, he stepped forward. Even if it was dark in front of him, Long Chen was not afraid. As Long Chen walked forward, the call came one after another, and the echoes in the cave did not dissipate for a long time. After walking for a long time, he could not see the end of the darkness. Long Chen could not help but frown, and the Hong Meng aura around him was awe-inspiring. Break! Suddenly, a pure voice sounded in the cave. Long Chen immediately retracted his Hong Meng aura, and when he wanted to do something, he realized that there was no more darkness in the cave. In front of Long Chen, there was a water surface with a radius of several hundred feet, like a small lake. Although the lake appeared to be filled with water, Long Chen immediately realized that the lake contained an extremely dense fiendish energy. Therefore, it was impossible for the lake to be filled with water. The most likely possibility was that it was filled with water. It was most likely blood. In the center of the lake, there was a looming, or it could be said that there was a constantly flickering light shadow. This light shadow was about the size of an 8 or 9-year-old baby, and it was difficult to tell what it was from its appearance. At this time, the call sounded again. Descendants of the dragon race. At this moment, Long Chen was able to clearly see that this call actually came from the light figure in the small lake. It was also at this moment that the faintly discernible silhouette in the small lake finally stabilized and converged into the shape of a 9-year-old child on the surface of the lake. The child looked at Long Chen and said slowly, "You're finally here." Long Chen was confused and quickly asked, "Who are you?" The child smiled and said, "I can feel that you have the blood of my dragon clan in your body." The blood of the heavenly dragon clan? Long Chen was shocked and asked again, "Who are you?" The child's silhouette flickered again. From Long Chen's point of view, the child seemed to have disappeared for a moment and then reappeared. The child stabilized his body and said, "Descendants of the dragon race. Since you have the blood of the dragon race, are you willing to make a contribution to the Long Meng polar region?" From the child's words, Long Chen felt that this child should be a weak light shadow formed by the essence of a true dragon. "I have to know who you are, right?" Long Chen frowned and said, "This is the ancient battlefield mountain range in the Long Meng polar region. I came in through a large formation. Can you tell me what's going on here?" Hearing this, the child's expression became a little serious and said, "I am the golden dragon of the Hong Meng dragon clan. The ancient battlefield you mentioned should be the place where I fought with the humans of the 3 polar regions, right?" Long Chen nodded and said, "Yes, it has been 100,000 years since that battle." 100,000 years? The child was a little surprised. After a while, his surprised expression slowly faded and he let out a long sigh. "I didn't expect that 100,000 years had passed. I actually stayed here for 100,000 years." After knowing that this child was once a golden dragon of the primordial chaos dragon race, and a member of the dragon race who participated in the war, Long Chen was no longer as nervous. He slowly said, "Senior, since you survived the war, why didn't you leave? Why? Also, you said that you wanted me to make a contribution to the Long Meng polar region. What's going on?" The child nodded and said, 100,000 years ago, the Hong Meng Tao ancestors of the 3 polar regions, Pangmeng polar region, Linmeng polar region, led their polar armies to besiege the Long Meng polar region. Long Meng, the patriarch of the dragon race, led the entire dragon race to resist desperately. In the final battle, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. After the patriarch Long Meng died, the cultivators of the dragon race successively died in the hands of the 3 Hong Meng Tao ancestors. I, the golden dragon Long Gang, was lucky enough to preserve my soul and was able to leave behind a trace of consciousness. I was able to struggle at death's door again. Long Chen paused. Long Chen knew a lot about the formation 100,000 years ago. In addition, after coming to this ancient battlefield, Long Chen might know more about some things than the golden dragon in front of him who called himself Long Gang. However, Long Chen did not understand the things in this ancient battlefield, such as the formation in the central area and the golden light ball he had seen before. Long Chen said with a dignified expression, "If Senior's soul does not dissipate, is it possible?" Before Long Chen finished speaking, the golden dragon Long Gang sighed and said, "It's not that I don't want to leave, but I really can't. In order to preserve my soul, I spent too much of my Hong Meng Qi. Although I succeeded in preserving my soul and had the hope of prolonging my life, under the heavy attack of the Hong Meng Tao ancestor, I had no choice but to sleep. I don't know how many years have passed since I slept. When I woke up, this world had already become like this. At that time, I also wanted to leave. However, the moment I was about to leave, I discovered something extraordinary." "What happened?" Long Chen was a little curious when he heard this. The Golden Dragon Gang continued, "When I was about to break free from the suppression of this world, an extremely ferocious aura appeared behind me. At that time, I was also curious, so I went to investigate. That was how I obtained such a shocking harvest. It turned out that because of the war that year, almost all the practitioners of the 4 polar regions died again, and each of the practitioners who died was an expert of the Hong Meng Tianjing. Therefore, when they died, they used all kinds of secret methods to preserve part of their souls like me, so they had the possibility of surviving. However, these practitioners were not as lucky as me. Their souls did not awaken, but were swallowed by a special existence. Chapter 1953. Special Existence? Long Chen could not help but be curious when he heard Long Gang's words. Long Gang nodded and said, "You may not understand, but the special existence I'm talking about is a kind of living being formed by the condensation of demonic qi." Long Chen thought for a while and said, "You mean, because the demonic qi in this ancient battlefield is too strong, the demonic qi actually formed its own consciousness?" Long Gang looked a little depressed and said, "Not only that, what you said is only the first step of the demonic qi's formation. After it condensed into a living being and had its own consciousness, it became even more terrifying. It used the secret method to protect the souls of the cultivators. It devoured the souls of the remaining cultivators and greatly strengthened its own strength. Then, it almost crazily intercepted the Hong Meng's power between heaven and earth, allowing its own strength to increase rapidly. If it's a living being formed spontaneously, it shouldn't have such consciousness, right? Why are you so afraid, Senior?" Long Chen was a little frightened by Long Gang's words. The Golden Dragon Gang said slowly, "The key is here. After that fiendish being devoured the souls of many cultivators, it merged the consciousness of those cultivators into one. After being refined by its own body, the consciousness it condensed has already surpassed that of a transcendent being. It surpassed anyone in the world today. What does it want to do?" The more Long Chen listened, the more he felt that something was wrong. Long Gang's figure flickered and said, "What the demonic qi wants to do is to destroy the outside world, or to kill all the other living beings it sees, this." Long Chen was a little flustered and said, "How could it be like this?" Long Gang said, "This is the battlefield of that great battle. It was originally filled with demonic qi that was difficult to calm down. After being catalyzed by the operation of heaven and earth, the demonic qi that spontaneously formed naturally became murderous. What's more, it was surrounded by the demonic qi. After it had its own consciousness, its hatred for this world was even stronger, almost to the point where heaven and earth could bear witness, and what?" Long Chen murmured. "The cultivators who died on this battlefield were all Hong Meng Tianjing at the very least. Therefore, after the fiendish spirits devoured the divine souls of these cultivators, the strength of the fiendish spirits reached a point where it was difficult to control them." Long Gang heaved a long sigh. "Senior, if even you find it difficult to control it, could it be that the strength of this demonic spirit is that of the Hong Meng Dao ancestor?" Long Chen asked doubtfully. "If he had the strength of the Hong Meng Dao ancestor, I wouldn't have been able to control him." Long Gang let out a long sigh and said, "The current fiendish spirit should have the strength of Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 9. Moreover, he is only one step away from being promoted. Hong Meng Dao ancestor." Long Chen paused and said, "The peak of Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 9? Long Gang nodded and said, "This is my conservative estimate. As early as tens of thousands of years ago, when I suppressed this fiendish spirit, he was already at the 9th Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 9. Now that tens of thousands of years have passed, his strength must be great. For the sake of improvement, if he is promoted to the Hong Meng Dao ancestor, or if he is allowed to break through this formation, not to mention the Long Meng polar region, even the 9 polar regions in the world will be plunged into misery and suffering." Long Chen was shocked. Although he did not know how this fiendish spirit was formed, he could imagine the power of this fiendish spirit just by listening to Long Gang's explanation. In this ancient battlefield, There were tens of thousands of Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 9 experts who had fallen here. According to Long Gang, most of these Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 9 experts had used secret techniques to preserve their divine souls before they died, waiting for them to wake up. The divine souls of these cultivators were actually swallowed by the fiendish spirit. In this way, coupled with the unique murderous aura of this world and the imposing manner of Hong Meng, the growth of the fiendish spirit was naturally immeasurable. This formation in the ancient battlefield is the work of Senior? Long Chen asked. Long Gang nodded and said, "That's right. When I woke up, the fiendish spirit was just about to leave this ancient battlefield. I knew very well that if the fiendish spirit was allowed to leave this place, it would undergo a period of growth and advance into the primordial chaos Tao ancestor. After that, no one in the whole Hong Meng Stage 9 will be his opponent. Is it that the other Tao ancestors can't kill him even if they join forces?" Long Chen thought of the three polar regions Hong Meng Tao ancestors besieging the Long Meng polar regions Long Meng. Didn't they win that war? Long Gang shook his head slowly and said, "Even if our patriarch is not dead, and the Grand Mist Extreme Grounds Grand Mist Tao ancestor is not seriously injured, the 9 Tao ancestors working together would not be a match for this fiendish spirit." Long Chen opened his mouth wide and said, "How could this be? The fiendish spirit is formed by the unique fiendish spirit in this world, coupled with the murderous aura of blood that has not dissipated for a long time. Then, he has swallowed countless cultivators' divine souls, and his entire spiritual body has reached the purest state. With his strength, he can crush any force in Hong Meng Stage 9, Long Gang explained. Senior, you just said that you have already suppressed this fiendish spirit with the formation tens of thousands of years ago. Since you can suppress it, why don't you just kill it? Long Chen looked dignified. Long Gang looked helpless and said, "Suppressing it is already the limit of what I can do. If I want to kill it, it may be possible only if the 9 Hong Meng Dao ancestors join forces. Moreover, the reason why I can suppress it is to a large extent. It is because of the many spiritual treasures in this ancient battlefield." Finally, Long Gang talked about the role of these spiritual treasures, and Long Chen became more attentive. In order to improve his strength, the fiendish spirit almost crazily chose to swallow the divine souls of the cultivators scattered in this ancient battlefield. But what he did not expect was that those cultivators who died together with them were not only the divine souls that were preserved by their secret method, but also the spiritual treasures that were connected to the cultivators when they were alive. After I learned the secret of the fiendish spirit, I collected the spiritual treasures in this ancient battlefield. Before the fiendish spirit finished swallowing, I gathered all the spiritual treasures scattered in this battlefield. Then, I used the power of Hong Meng to activate the imprints in the divine souls of the previous owners of these spiritual treasures. In this way, because the fiendish spirit swallowed the divine souls of those cultivators, the fiendish spirit would be attracted by my actions. At that time, his divine soul was not strong enough, so after this, I forcibly suppressed the fiendish spirit under this formation, Long Gang said slowly. Chapter 1954. Long Chen took some time to react and said, "If that's the case, then why do you open the formation every once in a while and throw the spiritual treasures out of the formation?" Long Gang said, "That's why I need your help." "What do you mean?" Long Chen was puzzled. Long Gang's body became a little blurry and he said, "The fiendish spirit is suppressed by me under this formation. However, it's only suppression. With my ability, I can't kill the fiendish spirit. Therefore, although the fiendish spirit is suppressed by me, it's still growing. It's just that the speed of its growth has slowed down a lot. Because of this, after tens of thousands of years of growth, the fiendish spirit's strength has become stronger and stronger. It has reached the point where I can't control this formation. Moreover, on the first day I suppressed the fiendish spirit began to plan the process of escaping. Moreover, it has been continuously carrying out the plan. Hearing this, Long Chen suddenly understood and said, Senior, you mean to say that the spiritual treasures in this formation are all controlled by the fiendish spirit to be sent out of the formation? Long Gang nodded and said, That's right. Since I can rely on these spirits to control the spiritual treasures, the spiritual treasures and the spiritual treasures, the spiritual treasures and the spiritual treasures, will be sent out of the formation by the spiritual treasures? The soul imprints in the treasures are attracted by the evil spirit, suppressing the evil spirit under the formation. Naturally, the evil spirit is able to use the soul imprints in his body to throw these treasures out of the formation one by one. At this point, Long Chen finally understood the ins and outs of the whole matter. The resplendent space that Long Chen was in should be the place where the fiendish spirit could control the spiritual treasures to go. Every 60 years, the ancient battlefield would open. At this time, the fiendish spirit would use his spiritual qi to pull the spiritual treasures that were suppressing him out of the formation. However, just throwing them out was not enough to make these spiritual treasures leave. Even if they were floating above the formation, these spiritual treasures would still be useful in suppressing the fiendish spirit. Therefore, the fiendish spirit had to make the spiritual treasures that he had painstakingly thrown out of the formation be taken by others and brought out of the ancient battlefield. In this way, the number of spirit treasures in the formation would decrease, and the flow of the entire formation would decrease. Naturally, this would lead to the formation's suppression of the fiendish spirits to decrease as well. When the suppression power of the formation was reduced to a certain level, coupled with the strength of the fiendish spirits, once its power was raised to a certain level, the fiendish spirits would be able to destroy the formation and see the light of day again. At that time, when the evil spirits regained their freedom, the first one they would kill would be Long Gang, who had trapped the evil spirits in the formation for tens of thousands of years. Senior, how can I help you? Long Chen also realized the crisis of the situation and quickly asked. Seeing that Long Chen understood the ins and outs of the matter by himself, Long Gang was quite pleased. He said, When I built this formation, the power of the spirit treasures did not consume the power of the spirit treasures. I only led the fiendish spirits here by relying on the spirit imprints contained in the spirit treasures that were connected to the spirits that the fiendish spirits had devoured. Therefore, after successfully suppressing the evil spirits, the spirit imprints in the spirit treasures were useless to me and the formation. However, the fiendish spirits suppressed under the formation became the most crucial part of his plan to destroy the formation. Long Chen said thoughtfully, Senior, do you mean that you want me to destroy the spirit imprints in the spirit treasures? Long Gang nodded and said, That's right. I think you also know that if the fiendish qi wants to break the big formation, there are only two ways. The first is to throw these spiritual treasures out of the big formation one by one, and let them be destroyed. The array itself has become weak. The other reason is that he is enduring the pressure of the array while cultivating his own realm, allowing himself to advance to the primordial chaos Tao ancestor under the array. The second option cannot be blocked no matter what. Therefore, the only thing I can do now is to make contact with the spiritual imprints in those spiritual treasures, so that the demonic qi can no longer control those spiritual treasures. Naturally, I will be able to make them, naturally, the formation will be maintained. Long Chen said slowly. This is exactly what I need. Long Gang was a little excited. Long Chen agreed and said, Senior, when the three polar regions besieged the Long Meng polar region, the dragon tribe in the Long Meng polar region was almost destroyed. Don't you want to take revenge? Why don't you let the fiendish spirits leave and turn the whole Hong Meng upside down? Overturn the earth? Long Gang shook his head and said, In the end, that great battle back then was because the three Tao ancestors, led by the primordial chaos Tao ancestor, coveted our patriarch's strength too much. It was also because our dragon clan was too tyrannical in cultivation that it made the humans, who were much weaker than our dragon clan, feel threatened. Perhaps in the eyes of our tribe I shouldn't think so. I should take revenge for the dragon tribe and launch an attack on the Hong-Meng polar region. However, the formation that year almost consumed half of the Hong-Meng polar region's fortune. Our Long-Meng polar region has half of the luck of the 3 polar regions. Our Long-Meng polar region has also accompanied the entire dragon tribe. Even if we win this battle, what's the point? If I'm not wrong, the Hong-Meng polar region should now be inhabited by a group of people similar to the savage tribes, right? Long Gang suddenly asked. Long Chun paused and said, in the Hong-Meng polar region, there are many large tribes with strong strength. Before Long Chun finished speaking, Long Gang shook his head and said, before the war, the Hong-Meng polar region was the most prosperous polar region among the 9 polar regions. Among them, the dynasties and principalities were the dominant positions, and there were countless cultivation sects. But now it can only be supported by the tribes. A war made the polar region become like this. If there is another war, can you imagine the consequences? After listening to Long Gang's words, Long Chun solved a question that had been in his heart for a long time. Why were there so many cultivation sects and dynasties in the Lin-Meng polar region, but why were there only primitive tribes in the Hong-Meng polar region? It turned out that it was because the war 100,000 years ago had consumed all the fortune of the Hong-Meng polar region. As a result, in the past 100,000 years, the Hong-Meng polar region could not develop. At most, there could only be a few tribal gatherings. The aftermath of the war gave birth to this baleful fiendish spirit. If this baleful fiendish spirit leaves this battlefield, forget about the Grand Mist polar ground, the entire Grand Mist world will cease to exist. These sufferings should not fall on the world. Long Gang said slowly. Long Chun listened quietly, and his state of mind changed little by little. Chapter 1955. In this world, what was good and what was evil? The 3 polar regions besieged Long-Meng polar region. In the devastating war, the Dragon clan was annihilated, the 3 polar regions suffered heavy casualties, and Hong-Meng polar region's luck was greatly reduced. In the ancient battlefield, countless Hong-Meng Tianjing experts were killed or injured, and their resentment bred the evil spirits. The goal of the evil spirits was to destroy the entire Hong-Meng. Even so, the Golden Dragon Long Gang, a victim of the war, still had to suppress the evil spirits for the sake of the world. This did not seem fair. Then, what was fair? The Dragon clan was born in the realm of Hong-Meng Yuanjie. Based on this point alone, they were nearly 70% ahead of the human race. Was this fair? Obviously. God had never given fairness to others. Fairness was always fought for by the weak. And the whole world had always been punishing the weak who did not fight for fairness. Looking at the dim figure of Long Gang in the middle of the small lake, Long Chun finally realized Long Gang's nervousness. Senior, what should I do? Long Gang smiled faintly and said, next, I will let you return to that resplendent space. What you need to do is to gather the spiritual treasures there, then inject your own spiritual energy into it, and finally use your own spiritual energy. Then, you will use your spiritual power to destroy the spiritual souls in the spiritual treasures. Long Chun said, since I'm doing this, will the fiendish spirit stop me? Long Gang shook his head and said, I will use my own power to control the evil spirits. Even if it can go, it will only scold you. Hearing this, Long Chun suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, by the way, Senior, why do you have to stay here and transform into a child after completing this formation? Long Gang heaved a long sigh and said, what you see is just a wisp of my soul. I used a great formation to suppress the baleful spirits here. Similarly, I can't escape. For tens of thousands of years, the baleful spirits have been able to rely on the baleful qi in this battlefield. As for me, I could only let the power of my spirit gradually dissipate. Fortunately, before my consciousness dissipated, I was still able to meet someone like you, a descendant of the dragon clan. Then, before Long Chen could react, a ball of light shot out from Long Gang's body and directly entered Long Chen's mind. These are some of the cultivation methods of my Golden Dragon clan. I believe that you have the blood of the heavenly dragon in your body. It should not be difficult for you to cultivate it. Long Gang's figure flashed a few more times. After receiving the information in his mind, Long Chen first exclaimed in surprise, then bowed sincerely and said, "Thank you, Senior. Go, descendant of the Dragon Clan. For our common Dragon Clan bloodline, for our common world." Long Gang's voice was choked with emotion. Long Chen slowly turned around and walked towards the resplendent space. No matter what, don't be disappointed in this world. Even if it has become dirty, it is still our world. Long Gang reminded him, but Long Chen did not turn back. In the blink of an eye, Hong Meng's aura swept in and turned the world upside down. Looking at the golden balls of light in front of him, Long Chen's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. The golden balls of light did not seem to notice Long Chen's existence and continued to float aimlessly. A surge of Hong Meng's aura suddenly burst out from Long Chen's body and directly wrapped around the golden balls of light that were floating in the air. In an instant, the golden balls of light released fierce Hong Meng's invasion power and suddenly bombarded the Hong Meng's aura released by Long Chen. This was the resistance of the spiritual treasures against external forces. How could Long Chen give these spiritual treasures a chance to resist? He immediately increased the force of the entrapment. Before the Hong Meng's invasion power in the golden balls of light surged out, Long Chen gathered the golden balls of light together. Taking advantage of this short moment, Long Chen released his spiritual energy and guided it through his Hong Meng's aura to support the golden balls of light. When the spiritual energy entered the golden balls of light, it directly collided with the spiritual imprint that was already in the golden balls of light. The spiritual imprint was a kind of imprint that was engraved using the spiritual energy. This kind of imprint could react with the spiritual soul of the same person and make the spiritual treasures with the spiritual imprint work from a distance. However, it was more difficult to remove the spiritual imprint. In a sense, destroying the spiritual imprint required spiritual energy, and this spiritual energy was more powerful than the spiritual energy that created the spiritual imprint. Long Chen's spiritual energy was not very powerful. However, Long Chen had no choice but to do it. Long Chen tried to pierce the spiritual imprint with his spiritual energy. Unexpectedly, almost at the same time, the spiritual imprint reflected an even more powerful spiritual energy, almost injuring Long Chen. However, Long Chen was happy that Long Chen found some information during this test. The spiritual energy contained in the spiritual imprint had reached a very unstable state after the passage of 100,000 years. Although it would still occasionally backfire on Long Chen, generally speaking, Long Chen should be able to destroy the spiritual energy that was contained in the spiritual imprint. However, it would take a long time for him to destroy the spiritual imprint. Time was something that he had endured for 100,000 years. A short moment was nothing. In this way, Long Chen used the Hong Meng's aura to gather the golden balls of light together and used his spiritual energy to destroy the spiritual imprint in the spiritual treasures bit by bit. This was a very time-consuming and energy-consuming task. However, Long Chen was willing to do it. The spiritual imprint gradually dissipated, and the fiendish spiritual energy that filled the air also weakened. Suddenly, just as Long Chen pushed this matter to the extreme, an extremely strong spiritual energy, or rather, a mental oppression, directly burst out from the golden balls of light. It was a spirit without a physical body. As soon as Long Chen saw the spirit, he knew who it was. This was the fiendish spiritual energy. "Lowly creature, you are courting death." The fiendish spiritual energy roared. Long Chen ignored him and focused on using the power of his divine spirit. "Stop! Suddenly, the fiendish spirit released a spirit ripple around its body. It instantly wrapped around the golden ball of light and directly pressed down on Long Chen's spirit power. Long Chen still ignored it. Long Gang had already said that he would try his best to suppress the fiendish spiritual energy's counterattack. Even if the fiendish spiritual energy appeared beside him, it would only be a little bit of energy. Chapter 1956. The spiritual power heavily bombarded Long Chen's spiritual power, almost knocking Long Chen's spiritual power out of the golden light ball. Long Chen could see that the fiendish spirit was not a physical entity. At most, it was a light shadow transmitted through these spiritual imprints. It could not cause much harm to Long Chen. The bombardment just now could be considered as the fiendish spirit. The peak of the fiendish spirit. Long Chen pulled out the spiritual power again and said slowly, Hong Meng Tianjing's ninth layer is nothing more than this. When the fiendish spirit heard this, it could not help but be furious. It immediately roared and said, Puny creature, how dare you work for the golden dragon? Do you really want to die? Long Chen said with contempt, If you have the ability to kill me now, I'm sure you won't be here talking to a puny creature like me. You? How dare you? The fiendish spirit roared. The fiendish spirit was seen through by Long Chen. It immediately roared and the spiritual power around it condensed again. Puny creature, how dare you ruin my plan? Even if I'm suppressed by the golden dragon now, it's easy for me to kill you. The fiendish spirit roared. In the next moment, the spiritual power around the fiendish spirit condensed to an extreme point. An oppressive storm suddenly spread out from the golden light ball. The Hong Meng invasion power came from nowhere. In the middle of these forces, the fiendish spirit's spiritual power was gathered in the middle of these forces, as if it was being set off. Boom boom. The fiendish spirit gathered this energy together. After circulating it for some time, it directly released it all at once. The spiritual power that was wrapped in the invasion power was suddenly pushed out. The golden light ball buzzed and the spiritual imprints in it trembled. Long Chen immediately reacted. It was impossible for the suppressed fiendish spirit to perform such a powerful attack. Now, it was obvious that the fiendish spirit was forced to deprive some of the spiritual imprints in order to stop Long Chen. He attacked Long Chen with his spiritual energy. In this way, even without Long Chen's help, more than half of the spiritual energy in these spiritual treasures had been taken away by the fiendish spirit. If he left now, he would have barely completed the mission. However, Long Chen could not leave. As long as he left a soul treasure for the baleful spirit, he could use the spirit imprint in the soul treasure to make the soul treasure leave the ancient battlefield. In this way, the suppression power of the entire great array would be reduced. 1 point. Now, except for the evil spirits, no one knew which spiritual treasure was the straw that broke the camel's back. The divine soul power that soared into the sky suddenly swept over, and the divine soul imprints around the fiendish spirit dissipated completely. When he saw this, a solemn look flashed across Long Chen's eyes. He said, It seems that the suppression of this great array on you is weaker than I expected. Long Chen did not want to be outdone. He immediately released his own spirit. In addition to Long Chen's unique heavenly dragon bloodline power, the two of them gathered together and bombarded the oncoming spiritual energy. Boom! Due to the isolation of these spiritual treasures, no matter how big the commotion caused by the two of them was, it would not create a huge ripple in the end. Moreover, outside of the golden light, there was the support of the resplendent space. This time, the attack directly shattered almost half of the spirit imprints in the golden ball of light. Soon, the fiendish power lost control of the spirit imprint. After that, in addition to the spiritual imprints that Long Chen had consumed during this period of time, overall, 70% of the spiritual imprints in the resplendent space had been destroyed. As for the remaining 30%, Long Chen did not want to leave it to the fiendish spirit. Long Chen once again circulated his spirit power. After slowly condensing it, he was about to advance towards the spiritual imprints again. For a time, the spiritual treasures in the golden light released a buzzing aura at this moment. It was as if the surroundings were under their control. This time, you should obediently stay under the great array and cultivate, Long Chen said sternly. If Long Chen destroyed all the spiritual imprints in the spiritual treasures in the resplendent space, the fiendish spirit could only cultivate on its own if it wanted to escape from the great array. However, when the fiendish spirit cultivated to the level where it could destroy the great array, what kind of strength would Long Chen have at that time? Long Chen was confident that he could definitely return and kill the fiendish spirit before it could rise again. Above the golden light, layers of spirit power exploded. The spiritual imprints that flashed for a moment in midair immediately dissipated. Lowly creature, do you know what you are doing? You will definitely pay the price for this. Presumably, the fiendish spirit was able to sense the connection between itself and the spiritual treasure. Therefore, when the spiritual treasure dissipated, the fiendish spirit directly cut off the connection between itself and the spiritual treasure, thinking that it could no longer rely on the spiritual treasure. The fiendish spirit could not help but roar in anger as it controlled the spiritual treasures with the spiritual imprints. Long Chen's expression was solemn as he said, "Your existence is a mistake, and your thoughts are even more wrong." The fiendish spirit said angrily, "I was born from heaven and earth. Although all living things have spirits, to me they are just lowly ants. You lowly creatures should not exist in this world." Born from heaven and earth? Long Chen raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't forget that your birth was due to the interference of lowly creatures like us. You want to destroy this world? This world is too filthy." The fiendish spirit shouted, "Give this world to me. After I destroy it, I will let it be reborn, and I will make it better." Long Chen's face was sullen as he said, "No matter how filthy this world is, there is always some beauty." For no reason, Long Chen thought of many people at this moment. Those beautiful experiences, those beautiful things that brushed past him, were they not telling Long Chen that this world was still beautiful? So, go to hell. Long Chen roared and operated his spirit power to the extreme. Hong Meng's aura completely enveloped the golden light. The last spiritual imprint was here. Purify. Erase. Break. With 3 roars, Long Chen almost used all of his strength. As his voice fell, the fiendish spirit disappeared, and the spiritual treasures wrapped in the golden light gradually revealed their original appearance. Long Chen panted heavily as he looked at Zhou Zai, who was finally no longer in the resplendent space, and smiled. There must be some changes outside the array, but he could not care less. Chapter 1957. This time, Long Chen had completely eliminated the spiritual imprints of the spiritual treasures in this resplendent space. The light in the resplendent space faded a lot, and the spiritual treasures that had been living in the golden light suddenly became dim. The evil spirits had disappeared. It seemed that the spiritual imprints of all the spiritual treasures had been destroyed, and the evil spirits themselves had also suffered a lot of damage. In this case, the big formation might be able to hold on for a while. Long Chen eased his strength, and warmed his spiritual power to a certain level. Then, he smoothed out the Hong Meng around him, and walked towards the Hong Meng imprint in the resplendent space again. He was going to tell Long Gang the news. After passing through the Hong Meng imprint and turning the world upside down, Long Chen came in front of the small lake. Now, the small lake was blood-red and silent. There was no sign of the golden dragon Long Gang. "Senior!" Long Chen shouted towards the small lake. No one responded. "Senior!" Still, no one responded. It was as if the child in his impression had never appeared. At this time, Long Chen suddenly remembered the wisp of Hong Meng Qi that Long Gang had passed into his mind. Long Chen hurriedly operated the imprint. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen entered his own soul world. Long Chen looked at the vast space, and his mind moved slightly. It seemed that after he activated the thing that the Golden Dragon Long Gang had left for him in his mind, he had come here? The spiritual world was a space that belonged to everyone's spiritual soul. However, in this world, not everyone could let their consciousness enter their own spiritual space. He had to raise the power of his soul to a certain level before he could open the soul gate in his soul space. Although Long Chen had heard about the spiritual world from Long Mu before, at that time, Long Mu was a spiritual soul, and had no choice but to use the Dragon Palace in Long Chen's body as a temporary spiritual world. Therefore, Long Chen's understanding of the spiritual power and spiritual world was still passable. However, this was the first time Long Chen had stepped into his own spiritual space. Long Chen had never stepped into it before. Suddenly, a wave of energy fluctuated in his spiritual space. "Come here." This voice did not sound like it was spoken. Instead, it sounded like it was directly resonating in Long Chen's soul. Long Chen was confused for a moment. He didn't know what was going on. After that, Long Chen was surprised to find that he couldn't speak in this spiritual space. Then how did the voice from before come about? Long Chen panicked. At this moment the voice sounded again. "Come here." No matter what, Long Chen's spirit could not make a single sound in this place. The voice still resounded in Long Chen's spirit. At this point, Long Chen had no choice but to start thinking. Spiritual space, soul energy? Suddenly, Long Chen seemed to have understood something. "Where are we going?" Long Chen finally responded. It turned out that the voice he heard was not a real voice. It was a kind of imprint that connected two spirits through soul energy. In his spirit, it was very similar to the voice of a human. After Long Chen responded, the figure of a child slowly condensed in front of Long Chen. "Not bad." The child smiled at Long Chen. This was still a message transmitted through soul energy. Long Chen followed suit and said, "Senior, why are you here? Isn't this my spiritual space?" Long Gang nodded and said, "I'm just an imprint. When I imparted this spiritual cultivation method to you, I added my imprint as well. Once you have mastered this spirit cultivation method, my refractive index imprint will automatically dissipate. The more Long Chen spoke, the more familiar he became with the use of soul energy. "Senior, what you imparted to me is the spiritual cultivation method?" Long Chen was a little surprised. Golden Dragon Long Gang said, "Since you can come here, you must have completed my task, right?" Long Chen replied, "With Senior's help, the demonic spirits could not resist much. I easily erased the soul imprints in those spiritual treasures." Golden Dragon Long Gang nodded and said, "Not bad. This can be considered to have settled one of my worries." Long Chen said, "Senior, where did your real body go? It was the light shadow I saw before." Long Gang said, "It's okay. Since the big array has been strengthened, now that I am also a wisp of spirit, I will naturally cultivate in this big array. You don't have to look for it. As long as you erase the soul imprints in those spiritual treasures, my real body will naturally be able to sense it." Hearing this, Long Chen heaved a sigh of relief. "In this way, since you have entered this spiritual space, my wisp of spirit imprints will not stay for long. There is one last thing I want to tell you." Long Gong was a little urgent. Long Chen said, "Senior, please tell me." Long Gang said, "The reason why I taught you this divine soul cultivation method is because I have taken a fancy to your talent. Moreover, the heavenly dragon bloodline in your body has already been awakened, so I presume that your encounters will be very grand, although I really want to understand. I really want to know more about it, but I really don't have the time. The big array has been strengthened. It is estimated that within a few hundred years, the demonic spirits will be suppressed steadily. After that, they will begin to brew and break through the big array. However, with his strength, I think it will be impossible to do it without tens of thousands of years. Therefore, please cultivate quickly in this Longmeng paradise. With your aptitude and opportunity, it is very likely that you can become the new Hongmeng Dao ancestor. If that time comes, please come back here and completely eradicate this demonic spirit. Also, give the 9 polar regions a permanent peace. Hearing this, Long Chen had a lot of emotions for a while. He wanted to say a lot, but he was worried and did not know how to start. Senior, you are so righteous, Long Chen said slowly. Long Gang smiled faintly and said, fine, fine. This spirit imprint of mine finally can't hold on any longer. Remember, practice the spirit cultivation method I imparted to you well. This is of vital importance to your advancement to the primordial chaos Dao ancestor. Also, if you can find the surviving true dragons in the Longmeng paradise, please mention me, Golden Dragon Long Gang, to them. It seemed that there were still a lot of things to say, but the child's light and shadow disappeared in this spiritual space. What followed was a series of cultivation methods for the divine soul. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen deeply imprinted this spiritual cultivation method into his spirit. After a moment, Long Chen returned to the small lake. Long Chen let out a long breath and bowed to the small lake. Chapter 1958. At the center of the ancient battlefield, around the Great Array. The majestic Great Array was still in operation. The few light beams above the Great Array had completely lost their original sharpness, and the appearance of the spiritual treasures was completely displayed in front of everyone's eyes. Although the invading force was not as strong as before, it was not as strong as before. Although it was so strong, the fluctuations still made the cultivators around the Great Array not dare to make the slightest movement. For some unknown reason, after Long Chen entered the Great Array, none of the cultivators around the Great Array left. It was not only because the suppression of the dragon tribe bloodline around the Great Array was getting weaker and weaker, but more importantly, because these cultivators wanted to see the dragon. What would happen to Chen? The atmosphere on the ancient battlefield became a little strange. All the cultivators present knew that there were tens of thousands of spiritual treasures and opportunities in the Great Array. If one person controlled the Great Array, wouldn't that be equivalent to controlling all the spiritual treasures? Even if it was a good-for-nothing, after possessing so many spiritual treasures, his cultivation realm and strength would improve rapidly. Although there were only a few people who thought in this direction, the cultivators around the Great Array were unwilling to see this scene. Even if they basically had no way to obtain the spiritual treasures in the Great Array, even if they could not obtain a single spiritual treasure in this trip to the ancient battlefield, they did not want to let another person monopolize all the spiritual treasures. This was human nature. However, the Dragon Python clan leader did not think so. After he failed to enter the Great Array, he very much hoped that Long Chen could bring out all the spiritual treasures in the Great Array. It would be best if there was not a single one left. In this way, the Dragon Python clan leader could attack Long Chen and snatch all the spiritual treasures that Long Chen had obtained. In this ancient battlefield mountain range, the Dragon Python clan leader was very confident that if he attacked, no one could stop him. Therefore, the Dragon Python clan leader was now looking forward to Long Chen's appearance. Jian Shisan was at a loss. Long Chen's actions were so sudden that Jian Shisan did not know what to do next. He was also confused about Long Chen's whereabouts. As time passed by, the suppression of the dragon tribe bloodline in the ancient battlefield rose once again. At this moment, the entire ancient battlefield formation was operating as a whole and was about to gather the power that had retreated. The surroundings of the formation were silent. Swoosh! Just as someone was about to leave, the tranquil and majestic Great Array actually burst forth with a wave of biting cold Hongmeng energy. Immediately, the cultivators around the formation hurriedly looked over. For some reason, those who could not bear the suppression of the dragon clan's bloodline seemed to have been reborn at this moment, full of vigor. The Hong Meng around the patriarch of the dragon python clan was fluctuating faintly. The fluctuation of Hong Meng above the formation became more and more intense. At the same time, the invasion force that had disappeared for a long time around the formation slowly floated up. The crowd's wait was not in vain. In the golden light, a resolute figure finally emerged. Before the crowd could react, the figure took a few steps out of the great array and directly collected the spiritual treasures that were no longer protected by the light beams. When they looked again, the figure had landed on the other side of the great array. He finally came out. Are those spiritual treasures in his hands? For a moment, Long Chen's reappearance immediately ignited the atmosphere. It should be known that these cultivators had been waiting bitterly to see what Long Chen's outcome would be. Therefore, if Long Chen had really collected all the spiritual treasures in the Great Array, then for these dragon-descendant demons who had the dragon tribe bloodline and had to bear the suppression of the bloodline of the Great Array, it was naturally easier to get the spiritual treasures from Long Chen. It was easier than getting the spiritual treasures from the Great Array. When Long Chen returned to Jian Shisan's side, he could not help but shiver when he saw the malicious eyes on him from all directions. This time, when he entered the Great Array, Long Chen completed Long Gang's task. He suppressed the demonic spirits again and cut off the demonic spirits' plan to break through the Great Array by throwing out the spiritual treasures. After that, Long Chen did not collect any of the spiritual treasures in the Great Array and came out clean. He did not expect that no one would take the spiritual treasures above the Great Array. Long Chen casually kept the remaining 3 spiritual treasures into his bag. Master Yu. The stone in Sword 13's heart finally fell to the ground. Long Chen waved his hand and hurriedly threw a few glances at Jian Shisan, indicating that Jian Shisan should wait. Jian Shisan immediately turned around. On one side, the Dragon Python tribe cultivators and the Dragon Elephant tribe cultivators on the other side were walking toward them. The look in their eyes was very frightening. It was like a dragon eagle circling low in the sky, so sharp that it made people feel scared. Almost all the cultivators around the Great Array gathered around Long Chen and directly surrounded Long Chen and Jian Shisan. Perhaps, at this time, in their eyes, Long Chen must have plundered all the spiritual treasures in the Great Array. It was just like the moment when Long Chen appeared. He easily collected the 3 spiritual treasures floating above the Great Array. The Dragon Python tribe leader stood at the forefront, his eyes flashing cunningly. I didn't expect that you could come out unscathed. The Dragon Python tribe leader said loudly. Long Chen naturally knew what these people were thinking, but at this time, even if he knew, he had to pretend that he didn't know. I was just lucky. I went in once and didn't experience anything, but I almost couldn't get out. It took me a lot of effort to escape from the Great Array, and then I saw that no one wanted the spiritual treasures above the Great Array, so I just casually took them, Long Chen said methodically. No one said anything. Even a fool would know that Long Chen was talking nonsense. However, as for what Long Chen really did in the Great Array, as long as Long Chen didn't say it, they wouldn't know. The Dragon Elephant tribe cultivator, whom Jian Shisan called Xiang Man, curved the corners of his mouth and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Tell me, how did you enter the Great Array? Are the spiritual treasures in the Great Array in your hands? Tell me the truth." Long Chen shrugged his shoulders and said, "I don't know how I entered the formation, but I didn't see a single spiritual treasure in the formation. During this period of time, I have been thinking of a way to leave the formation. The only spiritual treasure I have is I only have 3 spiritual treasures." The Dragon Python tribe leader frowned, a trace of killing intent flashing in his eyes. Suddenly, just as the Dragon Python tribe leader was about to say something, an extremely powerful fluctuation of Hong Meng came from the periphery of the Great Array. Everyone hurriedly looked over. Chapter 1959. The cultivators hurriedly turned around to look, and the scene that greeted them left them all dumbfounded. The big formation had disappeared in the blink of an eye. There were no more golden light balls, no more light beams containing the light patterns of the spiritual treasures. There was nothing at all. How is this possible? The big formation, where did the big formation go? The power of the formation has also disappeared. There has never been such a situation before. Does it mean that we will never be able to obtain any spiritual treasures in the future? The cultivators were either panicking or burning with anxiety. After a slight change in expression, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan quickly turned around and looked at Long Chen. His eyes were piercingly cold, and he said, "This is your doing, isn't it?" As soon as he finished speaking, the practitioners present looked at Long Chen again. Their extremely greedy eyes were like sharp swords, itching to pierce Long Chen. Long Chen's reaction was not bad, but Jian Shan beside him was really helpless. Long Chen smiled faintly and said, "I've said it very clearly. I didn't have any contact with the spiritual treasure in the formation. I also don't know why the formation suddenly became like this. Now, even if you release all your anger on me, I will not be able to do anything. Even if you're angry, it won't help." "Humph!" Man Xiang snorted and said, "As long as I kill you, even if the big formation disappears, it won't be a big deal. After all, there are still spiritual treasures in the big formation." The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan also nodded and said loudly, "As long as you hand over the spiritual treasures you obtained in the big formation, you can leave this ancient battlefield alive." The Dragon Python clan was one of the 4 great demon clans. Obviously, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's words carried a lot of weight. Even if those practitioners did not know the true identity of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, they would still give him face. Of course, these practitioners were also happy to see Long Chen hand over the spiritual treasures he obtained. Long Chen frowned and did not speak. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan said again, "I advise you not to have any other ideas. Believe me, it's impossible for the 2 of you to take the spiritual treasures out of this ancient battlefield." Long Chen shook his head helplessly and said, "I've made it very clear. I didn't take any of the spiritual treasures in the big formation, and I won't hand over the 3 spiritual treasures I obtained outside the big formation. I got them myself." Long Chen had experienced this kind of oppression based on the realm's strength since he started on the road. However, Long Chen's of a time, every time. The spiritual treasures in the big formation were a carnival of the entire Long Meng polar region every 60 years. Now that the big formation had collapsed, there should be no more spiritual treasures in the ancient battlefield. For people like Long Chen and Jian Shan, who did not live in the Long Meng polar region, it was not a big deal. However, for these people who had been living in the Long Meng polar region for a long time, it was a heavy blow. "Human practitioners, you can't be so arrogant in the Long Meng polar region," the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan shouted. The practitioners of the demon clan behind the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan also raised their Hong Meng Qi. Without any preparation, they directly pressed against Long Chen. These practitioners had long seen that Long Chen was only in the Hong Meng Yuan Jie realm. In the eyes of these Hong Meng Tianjing people, he was like an ant. Although no one dared to provoke Jian Shan, who was standing beside Long Chen, since there were people from the 4 major demon clans in front of him, Jian Shan did not need these practitioners of the Dragon Descent demon clan to deal with him. Xiang Man took a few steps forward and said with a piercing gaze, "I'll give you one last chance. Hand over all the spiritual treasures and I'll spare your life." The corners of Long Chen's mouth curled up. He turned around and glanced at Jian Shan, who looked tense. After hinting with his eyes, Long Chen looked at the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan and Xiang Man of the Dragon Elephant clan and said, "I'll say it again. I didn't get any of the spiritual treasures in the big formation. If you want them, go and get them yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, the sword energy around him burst forth as well, and he said in a cold voice, "Don't think that we master and disciple can only be bullied by you. No matter if you want those spirit treasures, or the lives of us master and disciple, you have to ask me first. My sword." The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had a deep look in his eyes, and a Hong Meng aura rose around him. "I didn't really see your sword that day at the Heavenly Sun Mountain, so let me see it today. I'd like to see how Shi Feng will be defeated by your sword." The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had a brazen look on his face. As soon as he finished speaking, the Hong Meng aura around the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan suddenly burst out. Almost at the same time, Xiang Man and the Dragon Descent Demon Clan practitioners behind the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan pushed their Hong Meng aura to the extreme and rushed toward Long Chen and his sword. The 13 people pressed forward. Jian Shisan could withstand the pure pressure of the Hong Meng aura, but Long Chen, who was at the 6th layer of the Hong Meng Yuanjie, was really unable to bear it. The Dragon Descent Demon Clan practitioners behind the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan were also not simple characters. Under such circumstances, they all sided with the 4 major demon clans and began to attack Long Chen and Jian Shisan under the leadership of the Dragon Python clan and the Dragon Elephant clan. Long Chen eased the pressure of the Hong Meng aura around him, and the dragon halberd appeared in his hand. The void longsword in Jian Shisan's hand had already condensed, and the sword force around him was faintly fluctuating. 13, are you confident? Long Chen asked resolutely. Jian Shisan's expression was grim as he nodded and said, "It won't take much energy to deal with these bastards. Master, you have to be careful. I'm afraid I won't be able to get away when the fight starts." Long Chen laughed and said, "When has your master ever disappointed you? Just give it your all. When we first came to the 9 polar regions, this was the scene. Master, do you still remember?" Jian Shisan asked. Long Chen activated the Hong Meng aura around him to the extreme and said sternly, "How could I forget? At that time, we had not condensed the chaotic Yuan Qi, so we were locked in a fierce battle with those people in the Lin Meng polar regions. Now we can't retreat." As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chen and Jian Shisan's figures shot up and directly rose into the air. Almost all the Dragon Descent Demon Clan practitioners followed suit. Under the leadership of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan and Barbarian Xiang, they stared at Long Chen and Jian Shisan not far away. These Dragon Descent Demon Clan practitioners did not know that when Long Chen and the other 2 first came to the 9 polar regions, the opponents they faced at that time were more powerful than this. Even so, didn't Long Chen survive such opponents? Let alone today. Chapter 1960. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan looked at Long Chen and Jian Shisan, who were gathering the power of Hong Meng. His eyes were full of disdain. Almost all of the demon clan of dragon descendants present were at the 5th stage of Hong Meng Tianjing, while the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was at the 8th stage of Hong Meng Tianjing. Given the strength of Long Chen and Jian Shisan, how could they win? In the eyes of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, Long Chen was courting death. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan did not take action on the Heavenly Sun Mountain because he was worried that his identity would be exposed. If the Hollow Spirit Phantom was damaged, the patriarch of the people of Demon Phoenix would probably see through his plan, and he would not be able to enter this ancient battlefield. However, since he, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, had entered the battlefield and was currently in the center of the ancient battlefield, it would be easy for him to kill Long Chen given his strength. My Dragon Python clan has been dormant for 50 years. I didn't expect so many interesting fellows to appear in the Long Meng polar region, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan said slowly. Beside him, Xiang Man nodded, but the coldness in his eyes did not diminish. Long Chen was not to be outdone. He said, I can't compare to you, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. You are an expert of the 8th stage of Hong Meng Tianjing, but in order to enter this ancient battlefield, you showed up as a hollow spirit phantom. It's really shameful. As soon as he finished speaking, the Demon Clan practitioners behind the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan were shocked. They all looked at the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan turned around and swept his gaze over the crowd. So what if there is? The patriarch of the 9 Serenities demonic phoenix clan is on my side. I just came in like this. Who would dare to say anything to me? For a moment, they were as silent as cicadas in winter. As long as they were not brainless, they would not raise any objections to the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan at this moment. After all, their strength was only at the 5th stage of Hong Meng Tianjing, while the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was at the 8th stage of Hong Meng Tianjing. The great disparity in cultivation level immediately struck fear into the hearts of the Demon Clan cultivators. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was quite satisfied with the reaction of the demon race practitioners. He turned to look at Long Chen, shook his head, and said, At least they know their limits, but you don't have this advantage. Back in the Heavenly Sun Mountain, the two of you were already at a disadvantage. Since you've provoked me, I've given you a month's time to settle your affairs. I think that's enough time. The roar of the Dragon Python Patriarch was accompanied by the monstrous pressure of Hong Meng, which directly bombarded Long Chen. Long Chen focused his mind and said sternly, 13, I will deal with this Dragon Python Patriarch. You are responsible for delaying the others. Hearing that Long Chen was going to deal with the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, Jian Shisan was a little shocked. He hurriedly asked, Master, can you do it with your realm? Long Chen's gaze became much more determined. He sighed and said, Do you really think that your master didn't get anything from that big formation? Hearing this, Jian Shisan let out a long sigh. He directly understood where Long Chen's confidence came from, so he agreed with Long Chen's proposal. Long Chen's figure swept up again. At the same time, he shouted at the Dragon Python Patriarch, Do you dare to fight me? The Dragon Python Patriarch seemed to be despised. He shouted, You're courting death. Then, the Dragon Python Patriarch suddenly leaped up and went straight for Long Chen. The remaining Demon Clan practitioners were facing Jian Shisan, who was surrounded by unparalleled sword power. After the Dragon Python Patriarch left, the leader of the Demon Clan was naturally Xiang Man of the Dragon Elephant Clan. Looking at Jian Shisan, Xiang Man frowned slightly and said, Jian Shisan? Jian Shisan nodded and said, That's right. Thank you for your advice. Xiang Man suddenly shouted. Hong Meng's qi suddenly exploded. His whole body turned into a ball of flowing light, bombarding Jian Shisan heavily. The illusory longsword in Jian Shisan's hand trembled. The sword power around him condensed into a vast sword river. His momentum was not inferior to Xiang Man's at all. For a moment, the other Demon Clan practitioners did not know where to start. Long Chen was fighting one-on-one with the Dragon Python Patriarch. If they went, wouldn't it be equivalent to disrespecting the Dragon Python Patriarch? On Jian Shisan's side, the sword power that filled the sky was really too sharp, wasn't it? Long Chen looked at the Dragon Python Patriarch, who was not far in front of him. The sky dragon power around him slowly circulated. Long Chen knew that the reason why the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was not oppressed by his sky dragon power that day at the Heavenly Sun Mountain was most likely because the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was a phantom. But now, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was the real patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. It would be strange if the Dragon Python Patriarch was not oppressed by his sky dragon bloodline. The Dragon Python Patriarch shook his head and said, Don't waste your energy. Even if you can oppress me, so what? Even if I only use the strength of the first tier of Hong Meng Tianjing, I can still kill you, a Hong Meng. You're just an ant of the origin realm. Long Chen smiled and said, then come on. After talking for so long, do you still think I'm a newborn baby? You can't scare me. The aura of the dragon python patriarch was piercingly cold. Several streaks of blood-red primordial essence condensed around him, and a powerful force spread out in all directions, directly enveloping and strengthening this part of the world. This kind of power was infinitely close to the origin of heaven and earth. The 8th tier of Hong Meng Tianjing was only 2 steps away from the Hong Meng Dao ancestor. Therefore, the Dragon Python Patriarch's every move was related to the origin of heaven and earth. This force was far beyond the power of Hong Meng. Long Chen was not to be outdone. After all, in the face of the Dragon Python Patriarch, who was at the 8th tier of Hong Meng Tianjing, if he held back his strength, it was very likely that he would be buried here. Even if he had just received the gift of the Golden Dragon Long Gang, he had to be careful and plan slowly. Kill. The meridians in Long Chen's body were operating rapidly. Suddenly, a bright sun lit up behind him. A flame dragon shadow condensed in Long Chen's body, containing an extremely powerful flame dragon power. The Heaven and Earth Flame Dragon skill was a unique skill of the Flame Dragon branch of the Hong Meng Dragon clan. Boom! As soon as the Flame Dragon shadow appeared, it directly merged with the bright sun behind Long Chen. Then, the Flame Dragon shadow, which contained a strong force, absorbed the deterrent force of the bright sun. After a short period of catalysis, the entire Flame Dragon shadow was multiplied. It was several times larger. After that, Long Chen operated the Hong Meng Qi around his body. With the dragon halberd in his hand as a command, he pushed the Flame Dragon shadow toward the Dragon Python Patriarch. In the distance, the Dragon Python Patriarch sneered and said sternly, "Do you think I'm still the phantom of the hollow spirit from before?" As soon as his voice fell, the blood-red Hong Meng essence around the Dragon Python Patriarch exploded at this moment. This scene was as if heaven and earth were collapsing. The blood-red essence urged the origin of heaven and earth to the extreme. An extremely vigorous force rolled out a storm, and the brilliant divine power directly pressed down. Chapter 1961. Ignorant Human Practitioner. Today I'll show you how strong a Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 8 is. The Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan threatened. Azure Dragon Transformation. The crimson essence around the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan suddenly condensed. At this moment, the heavens and the earth roared, and a terrifying pressure swarmed in. The space between the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan and Long Chen seemed to have been torn apart. The Hong Meng Qi that separated the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan from Long Chen. The power of the Hong Meng Tian's Qi bombarded Long Chen like a fault. At the same time, the figure of the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was also undergoing tremendous changes. Vaguely, it seemed that there was a real dragon gathering behind the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. Bang! The vigorous Hong Meng Qi gathered together, and the pressure of the heavens and the earth swept out. The crimson essence, which did not seem to contain much strength, became particularly powerful in the blink of an eye after being strengthened by the transformation of the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. The cracks in the space became more and more obvious. The power of a Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 8 expert was terrifying. The crimson essence permeated between the heavens and the earth. After tearing the space apart, its momentum did not diminish at all, and it bombarded heavily toward Long Chen. Naturally, Long Chen would not sit still and wait for his death. Moreover, the Flame Dragon shadow had already been condensed and was waiting to attack. Long Chen's mind moved, and the Flame Dragon shadow directly swallowed the brilliant sun behind Long Chen. Then, the flame dragon's shadow suddenly expanded several times, like a seal between the heavens and the earth. At this moment, the crimson essence stimulated by the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had already arrived. Without hesitation, Long Chen directly ordered the flame dragon's shadow to attack the crimson essence violently. Boom! After the earth-shaking bombardment, the flame dragon's shadow, which had swallowed the entire brilliant sun, was shattered in an instant under the powerful bombardment of the crimson essence. The crimson essence did not seem to be weakened by the impact. After a short period of preparation, it once again charged toward Long Chen. Long Chen did not dare to stop. Since the fire dragon art of heaven and earth was not working, he could only change his move. 9 Hong Meng's dragon halberd whizzed out. At the same time, Long Chen activated his heavenly dragon bloodline, allowing the 9 fire dragons to release more of his Hong Meng's aura. Currently, Long Chen had lost many trump cards after the battle with Shifeng. The ice spirit ghost wolf was gone, and so was the primal ice soul. The two things that Long Chen relied on the most had disappeared just like that. However, Long Chen didn't care about this. At least for now, he didn't feel too much grief and indignation over the things he had lost. After all, other than Long Chen's best trump cards, Long Chen still had some spells that he hadn't used for a long time. It was just nice that he could use them to learn new things. For example, the mysterious dragon sacred flame that Long Chen had improved himself, and the golden lotus god-killing formation that Long Chen often used when he was in Hong Meng's consolidation realm. These were all Long Chen's treasures. Boom! 9 fire dragons whizzed up. Monstrous flames filled the air. The entire ancient battlefield mountain range suddenly became steamy because of the appearance of these 9 fire dragons. At the same time, Jian Shisan activated the sword qi around his body, firmly delaying the demon clan cultivators led by barbarian Xiang. No matter how strong the Hong Meng cultivators' aura was, they did not dare to face the biting cold sword qi head-on and rushed to Jian Shisan's side. As for Jian Shisan himself, the illusory longsword in his hand was about 3 feet long. It was obvious that he was invincible within 3 feet. After delaying for a while, Jian Shisan did not display his true strength to hurt people. This was actually fulfilling Long Chen's request to him, the delaying tactic. Facing an opponent like the Dragon Python Patriarch, Long Chen did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent. While displaying the mysterious dragon sacred flame, Long Chen also prepared many methods that could be used early on to guard against any careless mistake. This kind of disparity in strength would definitely give the Dragon Python Patriarch a lot of confidence. If Long Chen wanted to win, he had to turn this confidence into arrogance. Just like when he fought against Lang Kuang in the wilderness. "You're courting death." Looking at Long Chen's countermeasure, the Dragon Python Patriarch smiled contemptuously. The Hong Meng aura around him faintly stirred. Immediately after, the Hong Meng aura of the Dragon Python Patriarch expanded again. At this moment, the blood-colored essence also became even crazier. As the aura was biting cold, the surrounding world began to shake. Boom boom. Continuous sounds of Hong Meng colliding and exploding rang in the air. The moment the 9 fire dragons ordered by Long Chen came into contact with the blood-colored essence, they directly spewed out a strong and vigorous flow of flames. After catalyzing, they directly wrapped up the hundreds of millions of tons of Hong Meng energy between the heavens and the earth. This energy condensed together and directly bombarded the blood-colored essence. When the explosion of Hong Meng subsided, the practitioners around the Great Array could not help but be shocked when they looked up. Long Chen's all-out defense actually withstood the attack of the Dragon Python Patriarch. The blood-colored essence suddenly turned into bubbles, and the Hong Meng aura between the heavens and the earth continued to fluctuate. Looking at this scene, the Dragon Python Patriarch smiled slightly. "You do have many tricks up your sleeves. If I can get my hands on your tricks, Together with the spiritual treasures that you have plundered from the formation, I will be able to advance to the 9th level of the Hong Meng firmament realm soon, the Dragon Python clan leader said slowly. Long Chen hurriedly eased the aura around his body. Although it seemed that he had broken the blood-colored essence in one fell swoop, Long Chen himself knew that in order to break the blood-colored essence, he had paid a huge price. The 9 fire dragons were all attacked by the blood-colored essence and could not be used for a while. In other words, now, Long Chen could only use the god-killing Golden Lotus formation. However, the Dragon Python Patriarch's condition seemed to have just begun. The disparity in cultivation realms was too great, putting Long Chen in an exceedingly embarrassing situation. Even the Heaven and Earth Fire Dragon skill that he was most proud of could not shake the Dragon Python Patriarch at all. What about the other tricks Long Chen had? You think too much. Long Chen seemed to think of something, and there was a slight hesitation in his expression. In the twinkling of an eye, Long Chen's expression became much more resolute. The Dragon Python Patriarch smiled contemptuously again and said, "An ant like you naturally won't understand my feelings." And Long Chen made a look of ignorance. He looked at the Dragon Python Patriarch not far away and said, "Now that things have come to this, I'm not afraid to tell you that I did gain some benefits in the Great Array." As soon as his voice fell, Long Chen's expression changed abruptly. Chapter 1962. Long Chen withdrew the Hong Meng power around him, and at the same time, let the power of the Sky Dragon bloodline protect his body. With Long Chen's body as the center, a strange power diffused out. The appearance of this power was accompanied by a unique strange wave in midair. It moved, filling this space little by little. "Aren't you curious? Watch carefully," Long Chen shouted in a low voice. As his voice fell, Long Chen stretched his body, and his whole body slowly rose a few feet. Then, around Long Chen, the strange power suddenly became obvious. This power was Long Chen's spirit power. Although Long Chen had just learned the spirit cultivation method taught by the Golden Dragon Long Gang, at this moment, he could only take a gamble. If he did not use the spirit power, Long Chen could only use the Star Lotus God-killing formation to deal with the Dragon Python Patriarch. The Star Lotus God-killing formation was a formation Long Chen had figured out when he was in the small spiritual realm. Although it had helped Long Chen too many times when he was in the consolidation realm in Hong Meng, and its power was also very strong, Long Chen knew very well that with the Golden Lotus God-killing formation alone, he could not even resist the attack of the Dragon Python Patriarch, let alone defeat him. Therefore, Long Chen could only take a gamble. Spirit power? Feeling the power released by Long Chen, the Dragon Python Patriarch in the distance made a horrified expression. "You're just a Hong Meng Yuan Jia, how can you use the spirit power this? Ha 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 ha." For a moment, the Dragon Python Patriarch was a little incoherent. Long Chen frowned and said, "How is it? Is it beyond your expectations?" As early as when he decided to use the spirit power, Long Chen had thought about the reaction of the Dragon Python Patriarch. Long Chen knew that with the status and strength of the Dragon Python Patriarch in the Long Meng polar region, it was impossible that he did not understand the spirit power. It was even possible that the spirit power of the Dragon Python Patriarch was stronger than his. However, Long Chen did not care so much. At this moment, he could only fight to the death. The Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan laughed and said, "You've really exceeded my expectations. However, I do hope that you can exceed my expectations. You're only in the primordial realm, but you're able to activate such a huge amount of divine soul power. You must be a genius. There must be some kind of spirit cultivation method. I don't want those spirit treasures of yours. As long as you pass on this spirit cultivation method to me, I can let bygones be bygones for all the things you've done to me." Long Chen could not hide the joy in his heart. In today's ancient battlefield, others might not know, but he, a person at the 8th level of Hong Meng Tianjing, was very clear about it. Above the 5th level of Hong Meng Tianjing, the promotion of each level required a certain amount of spirit power. The higher the level, the stronger the spirit power of the practitioner was required. Otherwise, practitioners at the 5th level of Hong Meng Tianjing and above would not have the possibility to promote their strength. If one wanted to be promoted to the Hong Meng Tao ancestor, which had not appeared for nearly 100,000 years, one of the requirements was that the practitioner's spirit power must be able to control the world. However, if one wanted to reach this step, it was impossible to rely on the cultivator's own tempering of the soul. Therefore, this required a soul cultivation method. This kind of technique, from ancient times to the present, could only be mastered by those who were promoted to the Hong Meng Tao ancestor. In the vast 9 polar regions, there were 9 Hong Meng Tao ancestors. Naturally, there were only 9 spirit cultivation methods. If one could create a spirit cultivation method, as long as the person's foundation of Hong Meng cultivation was not bad, he would at least achieve the 5th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. Therefore, the Dragon Python Patriarch, who was at the 8th level of Hong Meng Tianjing, sincerely hoped that he could obtain the spirit cultivation method that Long Chen was using now. Obtaining this spirit cultivation method was equivalent to obtaining the 9th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. At that time, the ranking of the 4 great demon clans in the Long Meng polar region would definitely be changed. Long Chen looked at the treacherous expression of the Dragon Python Patriarch and could not help but feel disgusted. He said sternly, "I advise you not to think too much for the time being. Be careful that your hopes are dashed and that I will become your inner demon. If this spreads out, it will make the entire Long Meng polar region laugh." Nonsense. As soon as his voice fell, the spirit power around Long Chen's body became stronger and stronger. In just a few breaths of time, the surroundings were completely enveloped by Long Chen's spirit power. In an instant, Long Chen seemed to have returned to that bright space, as if he was facing a fiendish spirit. Swoosh! The spirit power was different from the Hong Meng power. The Hong Meng power was a force formed by the practitioner refining the Hong Meng of heaven and earth through his meridians and acupoints. After the practitioner controlled the Hong Meng power, he could use various operating methods to make this Hong Meng power. This power could manifest the power that he could control. In other words, the nature of primordial energy did not have much to do with the cultivator. At the very least, that was the case in battle. But the spirit power was different. No matter how much of the spirit power was released, it had a great relationship with the practitioner's ability. Moreover, the spirit power had to have a certain connection with the practitioner. No matter when, as long as it was a practitioner, the spirit power would wherever the practitioner's mind was, the spirit power left behind would produce a certain resonance. Naturally, the impact of spirit power could not cause physical injuries to others like primordial energy. Instead, it would affect the other party's spirit through the invasion of spirit power. As long as the other party's spirit power was invaded and destroyed, the primordial energy would be destroyed. No matter what the person's cultivation was, as long as his spirit was damaged, he would not have a good ending for a while. Long Chen ordered his spirit power to slowly move towards the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. Between the heavens and the earth, there seemed to be a thin layer of fog. Those whose spirit power was weak or had not activated at all would not be able to see this at all. A layer of fog. If this kind of fog really got close to the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan and successfully entered his body, the lethality it would display would be much more intimidating than the primordial energy, which was thousands of times stronger than this fog. "Kill!" Long Chen shouted in a low voice. Next, Long Chen's spirit power gathered toward the Dragon Python Patriarch. Long Chen was somewhat confident that as long as the spirit power of the Dragon Python Patriarch was not as strong as his, this attack would definitely be able to seriously injure the Dragon Python Patriarch. If so, without the leader of the demon clan on the ancient battlefield, as long as Jian Shisan could make Xiang Man retreat in the face of difficulties, this battle would be much easier. Chapter 1963. Condense. When the layer of mist was about to hit the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan suddenly radiated a spirit that he had never shown before. Then, a thin layer of rising air burst out from his body. The power of spirit. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan also radiated the power of spirit. Long Chen knew this at first glance. Moreover, judging from the confidence of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's spirit was probably much stronger than the power of spirit that Long Chen exerted with great effort. After all, Long Chen's strength was at Hong Meng Yuan Jia, while the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's strength was at the 8th stage of Hong Meng Tianjing. The great disparity in strength just made up for the gap between Long Chen and the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's spirit. Even though Long Chen had been tempered by the Dragon Palace and possessed an extremely powerful spirit from the very beginning, coupled with the spirit cultivation method taught by the Golden Dragon Long Chen was able to launch an attack on the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. He could not withstand it. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's spirit was still as powerful as ever. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan released his own power of spirit, and his eyes flashed with a touch of sarcasm. The power of spirit he released did not tremble with Long Chen's power of spirit, as if it was on guard. He just let his own power of spirit surround himself so that Long Chen's power of spirit could not invade his body. At the same time, the blood essence gathered around the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan again. Obviously, it was about to bombard Long Chen. Now, Long Chen had no way to resist the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's spirit in Hong Meng. Even if Long Chen had the Star Lotus God-killing formation, he could not do anything about it. After all, using the power of spirit had consumed too much of Long Chen's mind. Unless Long Chen could take a short rest, Long Chen could only let the blood essence bombard him. The consequences would be great. If he did, he would be seriously injured and die. This was only the first time that the chief of the Dragon Python clan had strengthened his Hong Meng Qi. Then, after confirming that Long Chen's soul power could not invade his body, the chief of the Dragon Python clan smiled and quickly completed the first step without giving Long Chen any chance to react. The second and third Hong Meng's aura buff. He was a master of Hong Meng Tianjing Stage 8. Every time he released the power of Hong Meng, it was like thunder. After being strengthened by Hong Meng's aura several times, the blood essence gathered in front of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had become even more intense. However, the faint Hong Meng Qi within it made Long Chen's heart palpitate. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan looked at the blood essence that he had displayed and could not help but reveal a look of satisfaction. Immediately after, the Dragon Python clan leader waved the blood-colored essence, and within a few breaths of time, it enveloped the entire area. In this way, this area was strengthened by the power of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. The pressure of Hong Meng Qi was only directed at Long Chen, who was not the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. Now, Long Chen no longer had the strength to display the power of Hong Meng. If Long Chen's decision to unleash the power of his spirit consciousness was a gamble, then Long Chen's current decision was a gamble with his life. Long Chen thought that since he was no match for the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan in terms of Hong Meng Qi, he might as well put all his strength into his soul power. Even now, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan leader's soul power had blocked most of Long Chen's soul power. However, Long Chen felt that as long as he operated the soul cultivation method to the extreme, there might be a turning point. However, Long Chen seemed to have forgotten something. What if the blood essence of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had already bombarded him before his divine soul power defeated the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan? With Long Chen's current strength, it was impossible for him to withstand the attack of the blood-colored essence. However, the situation in the remains did not allow Long Chen to make any more moves. Success or failure depended on this move. Kill. Long Chen withdrew all his Hong Meng Qi and did not even display the power of the heavenly dragon bloodline. All his mind and energy were used to operate the soul cultivation method. At this moment, Long Chen's soul power was pushed to the extreme. The soul power was condensed in the spirit of the practitioner, which was extremely mysterious. At the same time, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan leader also pushed out the completed blood-colored essence. Boom! In the ancient battlefield, it was as if the origin of the earth was trembling. The Hong Meng Qi gushing out of the blood-colored essence directly created a fierce Hong Meng storm in midair. At the same time, the Hong Meng Qi on the blood-colored essence became more and more powerful with the help of the Hong Meng storm. The world was distorted. At this moment, outside the space condensed by the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, the dragon-descendant demon clan practitioners who were trembling with the Jian Shisan stopped and quietly looked at the space in the distance. However, from such a distance, everyone could feel that the Hong Meng Qi that was erupting from it had reached a level that could destroy the world. In the face of such a terrifying blood-colored essence, Long Chen did not panic, and he could not panic. The Hong Meng Qi did not conflict with the soul power. In other words, no matter how strong the Hong Meng Qi in front of you was, even if you were a Hong Meng Dao ancestor, I could still attack you with my own soul power. The soul power flew out and continuously pervaded the body of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. Presumably, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan leader had already condensed his soul power to protect himself. Coupled with such a magnificent move, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan leader did not have the time to care about Long Chen's soul power. It was this gap, a gap that could not be smaller in the eyes of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan leader, that gave Long Chen hope. As the soul power invaded, the blood-colored essence came into contact with Long Chen's body. The soul barrier surrounding the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan leader directly shattered, and the pressure of Hong Meng on the blood-colored essence slammed heavily into Long Chen's body. Bang! There was a loud explosion of primordial chaos, and an uncontrollable primordial pressure shook the space. It was as if the world had been thrown into chaos. The space surrounded by the blood-colored essence shattered, and the fierce Hong Meng astral wind swept out from it. The wild current of Hong Meng mixed with the violent storm and set off an uncontrollable wild storm in the center of the ancient battlefield. As the space trembled, a crack appeared in the outermost formation of the ancient battlefield. For a moment, the patriarchs of the four major demon clans outside the ancient battlefield were aghast. Only the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan looked a little sluggish. Chapter 1964. When the Hong Meng storm subsided slightly, a wretched figure shot out directly from it. His whole body was drenched in blood, and he looked miserable. It was unknown where the strength came from, but just when everyone thought that the figure was dead for sure, a wave of pure primordial qi suddenly rushed out from around the figure. With this wave of primordial qi, the figure was actually barely able to withstand the primordial qi. He stopped in his tracks. At this moment, the Hong Meng storm finally subsided completely. At the same time, another figure shot out from the space. He did not look as wretched as the previous figure, but everyone could see that this figure had also suffered serious injuries. The practitioners were shocked. After confirming that the person who came later was really injured, they could not help but look at the figure who had rushed out first. Long Chen looked at the Dragon Python patriarch in the distance, and gently wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He ignored the gazes of the practitioners and smiled contemptuously at the dragon python patriarch. Aside from being shocked, the practitioners of the demon clan at the side also had doubts in their hearts. With the strength of the dragon python patriarch, how could he not completely kill a person from Hong Meng Yuanjie after such a fierce bombardment? Moreover, he was also injured? How could this be? The dragon python patriarch eased his aura and let out a long breath. The moment just now was still fresh in the memory of the dragon python patriarch. Just when his blood essence was about to completely bless Long Chen's spirit power suddenly destroyed the spirit of the dragon python patriarch. Then, in the blink of an eye, Long Chen's spirit power completely invaded the dragon python patriarch's body. In the body of the dragon python patriarch, as the saying went, how could one allow others to snore beside one's bed? At that time, how could the dragon python patriarch allow another person's spirit to exist in his body? At that moment, the dragon python patriarch's mind was in a mess. How could he care about controlling the blood essence? As Long Chen had said before, if the dragon python patriarch had made a mistake in the battle with Long Chen and allowed Long Chen to gain the upper hand, perhaps Long Chen would really become his inner demon on the road of cultivation. Just as the clan leader of the dragon python clan was feeling restless and did not know what to do, the crimson essence had already pressed down on Long Chen's body with its majestic Hong Meng aura. At the same time, Long Chen had also completely activated his spirit power on the dragon python patriarch. Until now, the dragon python patriarch still could not figure out why Long Chen's spirit power was so strong that he could not resist it at all. Moreover, what shocked the dragon python clan leader the most was that the spiritual power that had invaded his body did not interfere with his control of the blood essence. Instead, it was frantically bombarding the spiritual power that belonged to him. At that moment, the dragon python patriarch realized that Long Chen's purpose was to shatter his spirit. If he did not stop and use his mind to control his spirit would be shattered after Long Chen was completely strangled by the blood essence. In that case, Long Chen would definitely die, and the dragon python patriarch would completely lose the opportunity to advance to the 9th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. If Long Chen and the patriarch of the dragon python clan were placed in the same realm, the patriarch of the dragon python clan would definitely win. However, the patriarch of the dragon python clan was unwilling to do so. In his opinion, even the lives of 10 or 100 Long Chens were not worth it for the patriarch of the dragon python clan to cut off his chances of advancing to the 9th level of the Hong Meng heavenly realm. Therefore, at that critical moment, the dragon python patriarch chose to retreat. Forcibly cutting off his connection with the blood essence would cause him to suffer a great backlash. However, this would allow his mind to return to his body as quickly as possible, allowing him to condense his spirit and preserve his ability to advance to the 9th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. An opportunity. In this way, Long Chen fought for a chance to survive by risking his life. After being forcibly cut off from the dragon python patriarch, the blood essence did not seem to have any abnormalities without the support of Hong Meng. However, relying on the physical strength that Long Chen had tempered in the clouds and billows, he was able to withstand such a bombardment. However, he did not die. The Hong Meng Qi power around the dragon python patriarch finally recovered. Looking at the astonished eyes of the practitioners below, the dragon python patriarch felt a little embarrassed. After all, with his cultivation, it was not necessary for him to deal with Long Chen of the Hong Meng Yuanjie. All this was to be blamed on the spirit cultivation method that Long Chen had mastered. However, thinking of this, the dragon python patriarch was even more delighted. There were two sides to every coin. It depended on how people thought about it. This kind of spirit cultivation method could allow Long Chen of the Hong Meng Yuanjie to possess such enormous strength. What about him? As long as he obtained this spirit cultivation method, wouldn't he be able to advance to the 9th level of Hong Meng Tianjing at his fingertips? It had to be said that the temperament of the Dragon Python Patriarch was much stronger than those opponents that Long Chern had met before. The Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan looked down from above and shouted loudly, "Even if you can escape this time, what can you do? The more you show me this kind of shocking means, the more determined I am to kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan wore a solemn expression on his face. The grand mist aura around him rose once again. The blood-colored essence disappeared, and was replaced by an even more intense 7-colored flowing light. These streams of light contained absolutely pure Hong Meng Qi power. They pushed forward layer by layer and directly turned into 2 7-colored dragon pythons. Suddenly, the whole space was filled with a layer of ethereal qi. SSS. The 2 7-colored dragon pythons looked ferocious, as if they were going to devour the world. They made such a daunting gesture toward Long Chen. Suddenly, the Dragon Python Patriarch did not intend to give Long Chen time to prepare. He directly ordered the 2 7-colored dragon pythons to attack. The brilliance of the magnetic material emerged along the path of the 7-colored dragon pythons. The killing intent contained in it was monstrous and strong. Seeing this, the surrounding demon clan practitioners hurriedly retreated a few steps. They were afraid that the qi power of the 7-colored dragon pythons would reach them. A trace of coldness flashed in Long Chen's eyes. These 7-colored dragon pythons were definitely more violent than the previous blood essence. However, the strength of his spirit was close to exhaustion. He did not have any means to defend himself. Even if he did, Long Chen would not be able to use it. After all, Long Chen's Hong Meng Qi power had almost completely dissipated in the collision just now. Jian Shi-san was tightly entangled by the elephant barbarian and could not rest for a moment. At this moment, Long Chen was truly at the end of his rope. Chapter 1965. In the beginning, there was no distinction between the 9 polar regions in Hong Meng. All the creatures gathered and grew up under the same heaven and earth. Until the Hong Meng Tao ancestor was the first to awaken. With his great ability, he divided the original Hong Meng into a piece of land. The polar regions were called Hong Meng polar regions. In a sense, they were independent of the Hong Meng world. The original Hong Meng world changed because of this. The Hong Meng Tao ancestor, who was the first to awaken, not only divided the Hong Meng polar regions, but also named the power of the heaven and earth as the power of Hong Meng. At the same time, he planned the realm of cultivation and made everything orderly. The Hong Meng Tao ancestor became the most powerful existence in the world. After the Hong Meng Tao ancestor, there were Tao ancestors who cultivated on their own. In order not to refute the Hong Meng Tao ancestor, these Tao ancestors who were promoted later called themselves. Their names were Lin Meng, Pan Meng, Tian Meng. There were 9 Hong Meng Tao ancestors. 7 of them were cultivators of the human clan, 1 was from the demon clan, and 1 was from the dragon clan. The later Tao ancestors also followed the practice of the Hong Meng Tao ancestor. They divided the original Hong Meng world into a piece of land that belonged to them and named it after themselves. Therefore, the 9 polar regions were not created, but were divided from the original Hong Meng world. It was not because the Hong Meng Tao ancestors did not want to create a piece of land that truly belonged to them. It was because even with the strength of the Hong Meng Tao ancestors, there was still no way to do that. After thousands of years, a Hong Meng Tao ancestor inadvertently comprehended the mystery of creating space and really created a piece of space. This matter involuntarily shook the other Grand Mist Tao ancestors. The Hong Meng Tao ancestor who created the space was Long Meng of the Long Meng polar region. It was because Long Meng successfully created a piece of space that did not originally exist, that some people thought that Long Meng's strength had far surpassed Hong Meng's. As the first Hong Meng Tao ancestor to be promoted to the Hong Meng Tao ancestor realm, no matter what they thought, they could not tolerate this kind of thing happening. Therefore, there was what happened later. The war ended. Almost all the dragon clan in the Long Meng polar region were killed. However, the Hong Meng Tao ancestor forgot that there were still some dragons in the space created by Long Meng. This space was called the Long Meng Paradise. When Hong Meng Tao ancestor realized that the dragon tribe in the Long Meng polar ground had not been completely annihilated, he sent Hong Meng vast heaven realm cultivators to the Long Meng polar ground to hunt. Unfortunately, the Long Meng utopia was not easy to find. And even if they found it, it was not so easy to enter. Tens of thousands of years had passed. As the dragon clan in the Long Meng polar region became more and more low-key, there was almost no trace of the real dragon. However, all the demon clan of the dragon clan living in the Long Meng polar region understood that the dragon clan still existed. Above the Long Meng polar region, there was a thick layer of Hong Meng barrier. This Hong Meng barrier stretched for nearly 1,000 miles. It constantly emitted the supreme power of Hong Meng, which felt like it was separating heaven and earth. If someone could pass through this layer of Hong Meng barrier and go to the other side of the Hong Meng barrier, this person would see a huge entrance. Through this entrance, one could enter the most secret place in the Long Meng polar region, and also the place where the remaining real dragons gathered, the Long Meng Paradise. When Long Chun and the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had a battle of strength disparity in the ancient battlefield, the entrance of the Long Meng Paradise suddenly shook violently. This vibration directly caused the Hong Meng barrier not far from the entrance to shake. Soon, under the Hong Meng barrier, a tyrannical aura suddenly emerged. A body dozens of feet long suddenly surrounded the entrance of the Long Meng Paradise, and the power of the dragon clan's bloodline filled the sky. Not long after, two human figures slowly swept out from the entrance of the Long Meng Paradise. When the real dragon guarding the Long Meng Paradise saw the two figures, the power of the dragon clan's bloodline around him slowly calmed down. "Young master, why have you come here?" the true dragon shouted at the two figures. The two figures were Long Mu and Long Yuan. Since Long Mu brought Long Yuan to the Long Meng polar region 5 years ago and successfully returned to the Long Meng Paradise, Long Mu had met with every member of the Dragon Clan who had been sleeping for 100,000 years in the Long Meng Paradise. After a discussion, Long Mu became the temporary leader of the Long Meng Paradise under the unanimous recommendation of the Dragon Clan. Long Mu smiled at the real dragon and said, "Uncle Wind Dragon, I heard that you sensed the power of the heavenly dragon's bloodline some time ago?" The real dragon called Wind Dragon transformed into a human, and he looked like an old man who had one foot in the grave. Wind Dragon approached Long Mu, nodded and said, "That's right. Some time ago, when I was controlling the Hong Meng barrier, the power of the heavenly dragon's bloodline spiraled up from the Long Meng polar region, and it immediately aroused my curiosity. From the strong power of the heavenly dragon's bloodline, I must have sensed it. From the looks of it, the one who unleashed this power must be a living creature. In other words, it is very likely that the Sky Dragon branch of our Dragon Clan has awakened after such a long period of slumber." Long Mu was naturally aware of the uniqueness of the heavenly dragon's power. Of course, this did not rule out the possibility that the heavenly dragon's power was not released by Long Chun. It could also be, as Wind Dragon said, that it was a reawakened heavenly dragon. Long Mu said, "I happen to have some time these days. Uncle Wind Dragon, why don't you sense the location of the heavenly dragon's bloodline now? I'm going to the Long Meng polar region." Upon hearing this, Feng Long hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Young master, you can't do that. Our race is still recuperating, and your cultivation base hasn't stabilized yet. What if we encounter those human cultivators from the primordial polar region? Okay?" Long Yuan, who was standing aside, shrugged. He did not really care. Long Mu calmed his mind and said, "Uncle Wind Dragon, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Besides, if the Heavenly Dragon's bloodline is really a creature of our dragon clan, how can we just stand by and watch?" Wind Dragon was a little hesitant, but looking at Long Mu's determined eyes, he still nodded. Then, Wind Dragon released his mind, and the power of his consciousness passed through the Hong Meng barrier and spread toward the Long Meng polar region. At the same time, around Wind Dragon, a faint bloodline power appeared. After a while, Wind Dragon turned around and said to Long Mu, "The Heavenly Dragon's bloodline should be at the ancient battlefield in the Long Meng polar region. As for the details, I can't do anything." Chapter 1966. The seven-colored dragon python's body was constantly emitting terrifying Hong Meng energy like a surging tide. As this energy swept across the sky, it tore the entire space apart. The Hong Meng energy waves, which made people tremble incessantly, suddenly hit the crowd of practitioners. "If I'm not mistaken, you've already consumed all your strength to activate the power of your spirit. Now you have no way to resist, right?" The Dragon Python Patriarch shouted. Before his voice had died away, the seven-colored Dragon Python had already swept to a few feet in front of Long Chen. Imminent peril! At this moment, a wave of sword chi arrived. Almost in the blink of an eye, this sword chi formed a sword chi barrier, directly enveloping Long Chen's entire body. Boom! Long Chen's figure swept down violently. Layers of Hong Meng's explosive power bombarded Long Chen's body completely. Bang! At the bottom of the ancient battlefield mountain range, a huge pit was immediately smashed open. The surrounding Hong Meng energy waves were unceasingly fluctuating. The seven-colored dragon python was circling around, as if it was preparing for the next attack. Jian Shisan risked being punched by Barbarian Xiang to break free from his almost continuous entanglement. Then, he was able to help Long Chen at the most critical moment. Using his sword chi, he condensed a layer of sword chi barrier around Long Chen. However, Jian Shisan was very clear that if the sword chi barrier was used to resist the attacks of other people in the ancient battlefield mountain range, it would still have some chance of success. However, Jian Shisan was not confident at all against the attacks of the Dragon Python clan. The only thing the sword chi barrier could do was to reduce Long Chen's injuries. As for what would happen to Long Chen after this attack, it was almost entirely up to Long Chen himself. Jian Shisan flew into the huge pit on his sword, his expression solemn. In the eyes of the practitioners nearby, Long Chen, with the strength of Hong Meng Yuan Jie, was already considered amazing to be able to fight with the Dragon Python Patriarch to this extent. Jian Shisan brought Long Chen out of the huge pit and slowly landed on the side. Long Chen was almost lying in a pool of blood. If it were not for the constantly changing expression of pain on Long Chen's pale face, perhaps anyone would have thought that Long Chen was a dead man. When the practitioners discovered that Long Chen was actually still alive, they were even more shocked. With the strength of the Dragon Python Patriarch, Long Chen was able to escape again and again. What kind of trump card did Long Chen actually have? Jian Shisan looked at Long Chen, who was in a pool of blood, his heart burning with anxiety. "Master, how are you?" Jian Shisan seemed to feel that this scene was somewhat familiar. For no reason, he thought of the time when Long Chen was seriously injured by Shifeng. At that time, Jian Shisan's Dragon Pearl Essence had pulled Long Chen back from the brink of death. But now, the Dragon Pearl Essence was gone. Moreover, it was obvious that Long Chen's injuries were more serious than the last time. Long Chen tried his best to maintain the stability of his aura and said weakly, "I can hold on, I can still hold on, cough 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 cough." Long Chen violently coughed up a mouthful of blood, his face even paler. Jian Shisan could also feel that the Hong Meng power in Long Chen's body could be said to be extremely chaotic. The bombardment of the seven-colored dragon python must have shattered some of the key meridians in Long Chen's body. Jian Shisan took out the Hong Meng's spiritual treasures that he had previously collected and hurriedly refined the medicinal power. He hurriedly let Long Chen absorb this medicinal power. However, to everyone's surprise, the current Long Chen did not have the slightest bit of strength to absorb the medicinal power. Even though the medicinal power had the ability to heal injuries, it still required Grand Mist spiritual energy to control the medicinal power. At that moment, Long Chen's body was extremely weak. Where did Long Chen have the strength to do so? Live. Long Chen said slowly. Jian Shisan knew what Long Chen meant, so he chose not to comment on this sentence. Since the Hong Meng spiritual treasures were of no help to Long Chen, at this moment, Jian Shisan could only take Long Chen away from here. At least, he had to go to a safe place first. Otherwise, everything would be empty talk. However, if he wanted to leave under the watchful eyes of the crowd, it would be easy for Jian Shisan to do it alone. But if he took Long Chen with him, it would not be so easy. Before that, Jian Shisan had to deal with a person. Only if the Dragon Python Patriarch retreated, there would be hope for this battle. Jian Shisan temporarily settled Long Chen down and set up all his sword chi barriers around Long Chen. Then, Jian Shisan soared into the air and went straight to the Dragon Python Patriarch. Well, you're really loyal to your master. Anyway, neither of you can escape today. In my opinion, it doesn't matter who I deal with first. It's just the two of you fighting for the title of being the first to die. Since your strength is higher, I'll let you go first. Come on. The Dragon Python Patriarch looked at Jian Shisan, who soared into the air, and said slowly. Jian Shisan ignored him. The sword chi around him burst out, and the sword chi in his hand rose layer by layer. The vigorous sword chi directly pressed down on the sky. The Dragon Python Patriarch called back the seven-colored dragon python that he had used. He did not care about Long Chen, who was seriously injured and lying on the ground at this moment, as if he had already determined that Long Chen would be the one to die. The seven-colored dragon python floated in front of the Dragon Python Patriarch. The seven-colored dragon python's light contained an extremely strong Hong Meng Qi. Every time the seven-colored dragon python wriggled in the air, this kind of Hong Meng Qi rolled out one after another in midair. Wave. In the next moment, the seven-colored dragon python fiercely waved its body in the air. Then, the vast Hong Meng Qi between heaven and earth rushed down like a flood toward Jian Shisan. Boom! Many of the cultivators present only heard the sound of the vast Hong Meng Qi moving, and the surrounding space was directly locked. In the distance, Jian Shisan's eyes were cold. The sword in his hand vibrated faintly. His body moved, and the sword in Jian Shisan's hand turned into a ray of light and stabbed out. The seven-colored dragon python wrapped the mighty Hong Meng Qi between heaven and earth and rushed toward Jian Shisan, who was not afraid of death. Jian Shisan stabbed out several rays of sword chi, which collided with the seven-colored dragon python's body. It was like an ant trying to shake a tree. That was not all. When the fierce chi spewed out by the seven-colored dragon python hit Jian Shisan, the sword chi in Jian Shisan's body was depleted for a moment, and the sword chi in Jian Shisan's hand disappeared for a moment. It could be seen that the Dragon Python Patriarch had used all his strength in this attack. With Jian Shisan's strength at the 5th level of Hong Meng Tianjing, it was not easy to fight against the Dragon Python Patriarch, who was at the 8th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. Chapter 1967. Seeing from afar that Jian Shisan had withstood the bombardment of his seven-colored dragon python, the Dragon Python Patriarch's expression was slightly shaken. He sneered, "With your strength it is possible for you to defeat Shifeng. However, I am not as arrogant as Shifeng. But if you want to rebel against me, you won't have the chance. Quick! The Hong Meng aura around the Dragon Python Patriarch gathered again. At the same time, the seven-colored Dragon Python once again radiated the almost violent power of heaven and earth. It looked like it was going to attack again. The Dragon Python Patriarch really did not intend to give Jian Shisan the slightest time to react. Jian Shisan's eyes were piercingly cold. He turned around and glanced at Long Chen, who was lying on the ground, unable to move at all. The aura around his body became stronger and stronger. Even if the Dragon Python Patriarch was an 8th-layer Hong Meng Tianjing, so what? Thinking of this, Jian Shisan's illusory longsword made a sound, and the sword energy raged. The instant reincarnation. Boom! At this time, a layer of primordial mist exploded in front of Jian Shisan. It was the seven-colored Dragon Python's attack again. Monstrous rainbow light leaped out, and the Dragon Python Patriarch's gloomy face became even darker. The seven-colored Dragon Python had absorbed Hong Meng, the source of heaven and earth. This time, the Hong Meng gathered around the seven-colored Dragon Python was not something that could be blocked by ordinary aura. After a breath, the seven-colored Dragon Python had swept Hong Meng with all its might and went straight for Jian Shisan. At the same time, the source of heaven and earth, Hong Meng, rose around Jian Shisan and besieged him. The Dragon Python Patriarch obviously did not intend to give in. Jian Shisan was going to drag this out with him. The space around Jian Shisan was directly torn apart by the pressure of the seven-colored Dragon Python. The collapse of the source of heaven and earth, Hong Meng, left Jian Shisan with no source of power for a while. However, this could not stop Jian Shisan from drawing his sword. Everything in the world was a sword. This was what Jian Shisan had learned from his battle with Lion Wind. When the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan saw Jian Shisan's resolute expression, he was a little shocked. Suddenly, the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was puzzled. Why was Jian Shisan's eyes still filled with boundless spirit under such circumstances? "I have a sword," Jian Shisan growled. Immediately, the invisible longsword in Jian Shisan's hand glowed with a vigorous wave of sword power, like a tsunami on a stormy night, rising directly from Jian Shisan's body. Traversing the world. Jian Shisan let out another low roar, and the layer of sword energy waves directly broke through the Hong Meng pressure exerted by the seven-colored Dragon Python. The sword intent was awe-inspiring, as if it could shake the heavens. The Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan suddenly turned ferocious. He manipulated the violent seven-colored Dragon Python and charged toward Jian Shisan. Go to hell! The origin of heaven and earth, the power of Hong Meng. Under the bombardment of the seven-colored Dragon Python clan's Patriarch, the Patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had absolute confidence that anyone who was weaker than him would die under this bombardment. Jian Shisan's eyes flickered with awe-inspiring sword intent, and the invisible longsword in his hand had an almost irrepressible power. After a moment of accumulating power, Jian Shisan's figure swept out. The longsword in his hand opened a path, and he charged toward the seven-colored Dragon Python with an indomitable will. The two forces, which were enough to shake the heavens and earth, filled the air and supported the heavens and earth. The entire ancient battlefield mountain range seemed to show signs of collapse. Barbarian Xiang, who was standing in front of the crowd of practitioners, couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. It should be known that he had been fighting Jian Shisan for a long time. When Jian Shisan wanted to escape, Barbarian Xiang had heavily bombarded Jian Shisan with a punch. Now that he saw Jian Shisan's powerful attack, Barbarian Xiang couldn't wait to leave the ancient battlefield. Boom! 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 Several sounds of Hong Meng's explosions intertwined with the sound of pure energy collapsing, reverberating throughout the ancient battlefield. Under the support of the huge Hong Meng, the heavens and earth seemed to have fallen into a cycle of nirvana. This ancient battlefield had witnessed a great war 100,000 years ago, and now it was the same. Jian Shisan's longsword didn't show any signs of retreating. Even though the seven-colored dragon python didn't consider the fact that Jian Shisan's longsword had already penetrated its body, it still charged toward Jian Shisan. Bang! Before Jian Shisan could pull his longsword out of the seven-colored dragon python's body, the huge Hongmeng's shattering force rushed out and enveloped Jian Shisan once again, exerting a huge pressure on him. Jian Shisan could no longer suppress the injuries in his meridians. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and the illusory longsword trembled. Jian Shisan had no choice but to pull out his longsword. Otherwise, when the seven-colored dragon python touched Jian Shisan's body, it would be too late to turn back. However, retreating so simply wasn't Jian Shisan's style. Since everything could be a sword, why couldn't the seven-colored dragon python be a sword as well? Even if this sword didn't belong to Jian Shisan, so what if it belonged to the dragon python clan leader? The sword was cold and frosty, and its awe-inspiring power shook the world. Jian Shisan's sword radiance scattered in all directions, and the rich sword essence left the illusory longsword in his hand. The longsword that didn't exist dissipated, and the sword energy that was added to the longsword was added to the seven-colored dragon python in the blink of an eye. Python's sword. As the sword essence swept over, the seven-colored dragon python slowed down in midair for a moment. At this moment, one could imagine what the dragon python clan leader was thinking. After Jian Shisan withdrew his body, the seven-colored dragon python's body exploded with a loud bang, and a seven-colored brilliance scattered in all directions. The crazy and ferocious origin energy of heaven and earth turned into a rich strength, and after circulating aimlessly in all directions, the dragon python clan leader cursed loudly in the distance, and this strength condensed again. Even without the encirclement of the seven-colored dragon python, this strength was still so terrifying. At this moment, Jian Shisan's sword essence had been added to the seven-colored dragon python's body, and the illusory longsword in his hand was no longer there. Jian Shisan had become a swordless Jian Shisan. Break! The dragon python clan leader roared, and the Hongmeng origin energy of heaven and earth that had gathered again condensed into a mass of air, and directly bombarded Jian Shisan's body. At this moment, the wind and clouds changed, and the Hongmeng origin energy of heaven and earth trembled, and the ancient battlefield collapsed. The big pit that Long Chen had smashed into the ancient battlefield became deeper and bigger. When the dust gradually settled, Long Chen, who was lying in a pool of blood on the ground, slowly stood up, and then walked step by step toward the edge of the big pit. With every step he took, the blood on Long Chen's body would create a blood pit, and with every step he took, the Hongmeng origin energy around Long Chen would dissipate a little. However, Long Chen had to leave, and Long Chen had to leave. Chapter 1968. In midair, the patriarch of the dragon python tribe looked at the two humble figures in the big pit, his expression full of disdain. The other demon race cultivators were gloating at the sight of this. Next, as long as they gave the two people in the big pit a fatal blow, they would be able to take away all the spiritual treasures on them. However, the patriarch of the dragon python tribe did not move. None of the demon clan practitioners dared to make the first move. After the earth-shattering battle just now, all the demon clan practitioners present remembered one thing: who dared to snatch the spiritual treasures in front of the patriarch of the dragon python tribe? Did they really think they had a long life? At this moment, the patriarch of the dragon python tribe did not want to make the first move. He actually wanted to see if the two people in the big pit had any trump cards. Long Chen dragged Jian Shisan's body to a relatively flat place. After Jian Shisan's aura eased a little, Long Chen spat out another mouthful of blood and directly knelt beside Jian Shisan. Sword 13 strenuously opened his eyes, and his expression was extremely dispirited. Master. At the first sight of Long Chen, Jian Shisan felt a little lonely. He did not have time to react to the pain that spread all over his body from the inside out. Long Chen wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth with the back of his slightly skinny hand, smiled at Jian Shisan, and said, "It's all right." Long Chen knew very well that if Jian Shisan abandoned him and fled when he was seriously injured, no matter how profound the strength of the Dragon Python Patriarch was, as long as Jian Shisan wanted to leave, the Dragon Python Patriarch would not be able to stop him. However, Jian Shisan chose to stay with Long Chen. This master-disciple relationship had never dissipated because of how long they had not seen each other. "I'm still not strong enough." Jian Shisan was a little ashamed and sighed. Long Chen shook his head and said, "If you're ashamed of yourself, then shouldn't I, your master, whose strength is even lower than yours, find a place to bury myself? It's enough to be able to do this." Long Chen heaved a long sigh. Jian Shisan forced himself to straighten half of his body, turned around and looked at the patriarch of the Dragon Python tribe in midair. He frowned and said, "Master, what should we do next?" "There's one last move. I can let you leave here." Long Chen smiled meaningfully. "No." Jian Shisan immediately knew what Long Chen was thinking. The Hong Meng Yuan practitioner's strongest move was the self-detonation realm. Hong Meng practitioners of the consolidation realm did not have this move, and neither did Hong Meng Tianjing practitioners. Long Chen looked stern and said, "Things have come to this. As a master, I haven't done well for hundreds of years. It's time for me to do something for you, my disciple." Jian Shisan forced himself to stand up. His expression was ferocious, and the pain of the broken meridians in his body became more intense. "Master, we still have hope. You can't self-detonate the realm. If you do, you'll completely cut off the hope of reaching the Hong Meng Tianjing stage." How could Long Chen not know about this matter? Early on in the small spiritual world, Long Chen and the Tianfeng tribe fought because Long Chen forced Shan Tianqi to self-detonate the realm. The power of Shan Tianqi's self-detonation was still fresh in Long Chen's memory. That kind of power was enough to buy time for Jian Shisan to leave this ancient battlefield. For some reason, Long Chen was particularly confident in himself in this aspect. "Master!" Jian Shisan shouted loudly. Long Chen forced himself to stand up, took a long breath, and pointed at Jian Shisan in the air. A force of Hong Meng swept into Jian Shisan's body in an instant. Jian Shisan, who was already seriously injured, suddenly fainted on the ground. After that, Long Chen walked to the edge of the big pit and smiled at the Dragon Python Patriarch, who was in midair. Looking at Long Chen's determined eyes, the Dragon Python Patriarch could not help but feel angry. He did not understand how a person who was bound to die could face a situation where he was bound to die so calmly. How could the strength of the Hong Meng Yuan Jie overturn the sky? The Dragon Python Patriarch said sternly, "Let me tell you, even if you self-detonate your domain, you can't possibly be my opponent." Even if the Dragon Python Patriarch saw through his thoughts, Long Chen was not angry. Hong Meng gathered around his body little by little. Because a part of the meridians in his body had been shattered, now every bit of Hong Meng gathered by Long Chen was equivalent to peeling off an inch of his own meridians. This kind of pain was heart-wrenching. Floating in midair, Long Chen once again became the focus of all the practitioners. "From the beginning, I didn't intend to treat you as an opponent. It doesn't matter whether I can defeat you or not. What I want is for my disciple to leave safely," Long Chen said slowly. As soon as his voice fell, the Hong Meng around Long Chen condensed into a brilliance. This scene was similar to when Long Chen suppressed Shan Tianqi with the ice spirit ghost wolf in the small spiritual world. However, Long Chen had never regretted that. After all, it was Shan Tianqi who forced him to do that. What he did was just returning the favor. But now, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was being unreasonable. He relied on his strength to bully Long Chen like this. Long Chen knew that if he died here today, Jian Shisan would definitely avenge him in the future. As long as he knew that he could avenge himself, Long Chen did not care. Even if the immortals could not save him, so what? It was human nature to be born, grow old, get sick, and die. However, Long Chen felt that he owed something. Long Yuan and Long Mu had not been found, and Zhu Xin's matter had not been dealt with. Ali still had a lot to say. Moreover, since he came to Hongmeng, it was as if he had been running around all the time. Long Chen had taken on too much of the big things in the world. It seemed that he should explain something to Jian Shisan. Otherwise, wouldn't all his spiritual treasures and techniques be extinct? Long Chen felt a little heartache. He had just obtained the soul cultivation method. Perhaps he had let Golden Dragon Long Gang down. If the fiendish spirits under this great array were to break through the great array one day, they would definitely come and seek revenge from him, right? However, it was funny. At that time, the evil spirits would not be able to find him even if they searched the whole Hongmeng. Long Chen smiled bitterly. He felt very tired. If he had known, he would not have been so tired. It was time to take a rest. This time, I will die completely. In a trance, the Hongmeng force around the Dragon Python Patriarch condensed into a Hongmeng Chi pillar. It triggered the origin of heaven and earth and rushed toward Long Chen. Long Chen spread out his arms and prepared to defend himself with his domain. At this moment, the world was silent and a sudden change occurred. The periphery of the ancient battlefield was directly torn apart by an earth-shattering force. Two figures suddenly entered the ancient battlefield. Chapter 1969. Since when is it your turn to show off in the Longmeng polar region, little snake? A loud roar was heard. At the same time, the Hongmeng between heaven and earth suddenly fell silent. The two figures that had appeared out of nowhere also appeared in front of the crowd of practitioners. When this voice rang in Long Chen's ears, Long Chen could not help but tremble. This voice was still so domineering, so ostentatious, and so nostalgic. It had been a long time since they last met. Long Chen looked at the two figures that had appeared in midair, and his eyes suddenly lit up. The two figures also looked at Long Chen on the other side, and their expressions were somewhat stunned. The three of them looked at each other and did not speak for a long time. Seeing this, the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan slowly withdrew the Hongmeng Chi that he had released. The aura around him froze, and his expression gradually became solemn. The clan leader of the Dragon Python clan could feel an extremely strong killing intent from the two figures that had suddenly appeared. The demon clan practitioners on the side also looked at each other in dismay. They had not even begun to think about how these two figures could directly break through the Hongmeng barrier above the ancient battlefield and directly come here. Long Mu wanted to get closer, but his body could not move at all. Long Yuan let out a long breath. Soon, Long Mu directly turned around, looked at the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan, and said patiently, "Do you want to end your own life, or do you want me to do it?" Hearing this, the demon clan practitioners on the side could not help but gasp. He actually dared to say that the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan should end his own life. What realm did this figure who had suddenly appeared have? It should be known that unless the Hongmeng Dao ancestor came in person, the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan would not be a match for this figure in the Hongmeng Tianjing. However, if the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan wanted to leave, no one could guarantee that they could stop him. Now, this figure who had suddenly appeared gave the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan two extremely ironic endings. Either he would end his own life, or he would end his own life. It was hard for the practitioners to imagine what the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan would think after hearing this. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan stared at the figure who was yelling at him. He tried to release his mind to detect the true strength of this person. However, his mind had been severely injured by Long Chen, so he could not exert his full strength at this moment. Therefore, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan could not know the true strength of Long Mu. However, the clan leader of the Dragon Python clan, with his keen insight, had already realized that Long Mu and Long Yuan's strength was extraordinary the moment they landed on the ancient battlefield. He had to be careful when dealing with them. "Who are you?" The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan looked solemn, and the Hong Meng aura around him suddenly burst out. At the same time, another seven-colored dragon python condensed in front of him. It contained an extremely strong Hong Meng invasion force, and the seven-colored brilliance shone in this ancient battlefield. Layer by layer, it released waves of dazzling light. Xiang Man of the Dragon Elephant clan was also very interested in the sudden appearance of Long Yuan and Long Mu. Inadvertently, Xiang Man sensed an extremely strong power of the Dragon clan bloodline from Long Mu and Long Yuan. Long Mu looked at the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan casually. His expression was extremely disdainful and even full of contempt. Then, when Long Mu could not help but look back and see the miserable state of Long Chen, his disdain quickly turned into anger. "As you can see, I've just arrived here. There are some things I need to confirm with you." Long Mu tried his best to suppress the anger in his heart and said slowly, "Did my two friends end up like this because of you?" When his voice fell, the practitioners around finally confirmed that the two mysterious people who had suddenly appeared were Long Chen's reinforcements. Could it be that they are also practitioners of the human clan? Xiang Man muttered to himself, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. After listening to Long Mu's seemingly gentle words, the Hong Meng aura around the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan also rose slightly. When two sides fought, the Hong Meng aura that determined the outcome of the battle had always been on the rise and fall side. "Do you want to save your two friends, or do you want to get back at me?" The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan narrowed his eyes and said, "That's a good idea, but before that, you have to weigh your own strength and determine whether you have the qualifications to fight with me." "The qualifications to fight with me? Do I need qualifications to fight with you?" The mocking expression on Long Mu's face rose again. Then, Long Mu suddenly rushed forward and leaped upward at the same time. The surging and strong pressure of the Hong Meng directly tilted down from the top of the ancient battlefield. Long Mu's entire body suddenly disappeared, and in its place was a huge limb that was dozens of feet long. The appearance of the true dragon's body immediately caused a violent Hong Meng storm to blow in the ancient battlefield. The extremely pure Dragon clan bloodline pressure directly pressed down on every Demon clan practitioner of the Dragon clan present. When the crowd of cultivators saw the huge body that suddenly appeared, coupled with the extremely pure bloodline pressure on their bodies, all of them were moved. "It's actually a true dragon?" At this moment, everyone in the ancient battlefield cast their eyes on the true dragon's body in the air. Every single scale of the true dragon reflected a rich, powerful, and terrifying power of the Dragon clan's bloodline. Before this, there was almost no Demon clan practitioner of the Dragon clan present. They did not expect that this figure that suddenly appeared was actually the true dragon that had disappeared in the Long Meng polar region for nearly 10,000 years. The true Dragon clan had almost disappeared since the Great War 100,000 years ago. In the following tens of thousands of years, the remaining true dragons were often besieged by the practitioners of the two polar regions of Hong Meng polar region and Pan Meng polar region. Therefore, in the recent tens of thousands of years, the Long Meng since then, no true dragon had appeared in the polar region. And now, a real dragon clan that could not be real had suddenly appeared in front of them. The pure bloodline pressure, coupled with the rich bloodline vibrating around the huge body, could not be faked. All of a sudden, the entire ancient battlefield fell silent. Almost all of the Dragonborn Demon Clan cultivators trembled under the pressure of the Dragon Tomb's bloodline. It should be known that the Dragonborn Demon Clan's ancestors were able to devour the Dragon Clan's bloodline by chance, allowing their descendants to be born with the Dragon Clan's bloodline. With the help of the Dragon Clan's bloodline, the Dragonborn Demon Clan was able to establish their clan in the Long Meng Polar region after the Great Battle. Because of their innate advantage, they rose to prominence here. And now, a true dragon had appeared in front of them. The pressure that involved the bloodline in their bodies was enough to make their hearts tremble. Chapter 1970. It turned out to be a real dragon? At this time, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan felt as if 10,000 horses were galloping in his heart. The aura of Hong Meng around him quickly faded away, and his expression became dispirited, as if he had been struck by lightning. Because the dragon-descendant demon clan had the bloodline of the dragon clan that was not very pure, when they encountered the bloodline of the dragon clan that was purer than the one in their body, they would be severely suppressed. This was the bloodline suppression. The bloodline suppression could force the suppressed party to slow down the bloodline of the Hong Meng, so that they would not be able to exert the power of their heyday. This was when they encountered the dragon-descendant demon clan that had a stronger bloodline of the dragon clan than theirs. And when they encountered a real dragon again, the power of the bloodline suppression was self-evident. It should be known that the Long Meng Polar region was ruled by the Dragon Clan in the early days. Because the Dragon Clan was almost destroyed after the war, the Demon Clan that originally lived in the crevices of the Long Meng Polar region swallowed a lot of Dragon Clan's essence and blood in the war. Only a small minority of the Dragon Clan's bloodline was able to remain in the bodies of the future generations due to the mutation of the bloodline. It could be said that the real Dragon Clan was the ancestor of all the dragon-descendant demon clans in the Long Meng Polar region. Why are you in a daze? Let me ask you, do I have the qualification to fight with you now? Long Mu looked at the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan, whose expression was stagnant, and said aggressively. The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan could not help but take a few steps back, and his face was slightly gloomy. Although at this time, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan had been completely shocked by Long Mu's identity as a real dragon, but after careful consideration, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan was, after all, the eighth layer of Hong Meng Tianjing. Below the primordial Chaos Dao ancestor, there was really no one who could subdue him. Thinking of this, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan gained some confidence and said, "This Dragon Clan? Your friend has broken the rule of our Long Meng Polar region for tens of thousands of years. In the future, I'm afraid the ancient battlefield will no longer be able to provide spirits for the cultivators of the Long Meng Polar region. Bao, it's not that I'm relentlessly pursuing this matter. It's really because..." The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan did not know what to say. Although he was still unclear about Long Mu's strength, he could not help but feel a little guilty when he thought of Long Mu's identity as a true dragon. At this time, Barbarian Xiang of the Dragon Elephant clan leaped up and came to the side of the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. "My Dragon Elephant clan has a secret method. I just used the dragon bloodline in my body to detect that this real dragon is only at the 6th level of Hong Meng Tianjing." Barbarian Xiang looked dignified and whispered. Hearing this, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan raised his eyebrows and said, "Really?" Barbarian Xiang nodded, turned around and glanced at Long Mu and said, "Absolutely." Long Mu's strength was at the 6th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. When he heard this, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan regained some confidence. "Even if you are a real dragon, so what? I am at the 8th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. Why would I be afraid of you, at the 5th level of Hong Meng Tianjing?" The patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's eyes suddenly became fierce, and the momentum around his body faintly rose. Oh, with a helper, you really want to fight with me? Feeling the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan's small movements, Long Mu smiled slightly. In fact, Long Mu had already noticed that the Dragon Elephant clan had used a secret method on Long Mu. However, Long Mu didn't stop it. Instead, he let the patriarch of the Dragon Elephant clan completely spy on his strength. Today, Long Mu was indeed at the 6th level of Hong Meng Tianjing. In terms of strength, he was indeed not as good as the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan. However, this was no big deal to Long Mu. The Dragon Python patriarch calmed his mind and spoke in a loud and clear voice. Regarding the old affairs of 100,000 years ago, it has almost nothing to do with the dragon-descendant demon race present here today. Even if you are from the true Dragon clan, right now you are talking about this matter, no matter what, it is somewhat inappropriate. Moreover, today's matter was your friend's fault first, and then he refused to hand over the numerous spiritual treasures he obtained here. Everyone knows that treasuring a jade ring will arouse the envy of others. The rules of my Long Meng polar region have always been like this. Hearing this, Long Mu slowly shook his head. Beside Long Mu, Long Yuan already couldn't hold back the anger in his heart and was about to make a move. Long Mu grabbed Long Yuan and said in a low voice, "Leave this to me. You go and see how Long Chen is doing." Long Yuan nodded and immediately turned around and rushed toward Long Chen. The reunion of master and disciple, the reunion of close friends, all of this was indeed very beautiful for Long Chen. Chapter 1971. After Long Yuan left, Long Mu completely revealed his true form, and the aura around him became even more piercingly cold. He had long heard of the illustrious reputation of the 4 great demon clans in the Long Meng polar region. Among them, the 4 clan leaders were extremely powerful figures. It was said that they had the potential to become the Tao ancestor of Hong Meng. Today is a rare opportunity for me to see the Dragon Python clan. What the hell? How much strength do you have with the advantage of my Dragon clan bloodline? Long Mu roared. As soon as his voice fell, the Dragon Python clan leader no longer had his previous cowardly look. He immediately took a step forward, and the brilliance around the 7-colored Dragon Python became even more dazzling. The Dragon Python clan leader was best at suppressing others with his cultivation realm. Looking at the 2 people who were about to fight, the demon clan cultivators on the side broke out in cold sweat. It should be known that the last time the true Dragon clan appeared was nearly 10,000 years ago. Although the human clan cultivators in the 3 polar regions had lost the intention to pursue the true Dragon clan as fiercely as before, the true Dragon clan and the human clan were still in a constant state of tension. The situation between the true Dragon clan and the true Dragon clan was still so tense. Now, if this true dragon appeared outside the ancient battlefield, it would most likely shake the entire Long Meng polar region. Long Mu did not beat around the bush. Previously, he only released his Dragon clan real body to intimidate the Dragon Python clan leader. Now, although Long Mu's cultivation realm was much lower than the Dragon Python clan leaders, Long Mu had the means to win. Dragon clan bloodline suppression. In any case, no matter how powerful the Dragon clan leader's Dragon clan bloodline was, he had to lower his head in front of Long Mu's purest Dragon clan bloodline. Long Mu suddenly released the power of his bloodline, and the power of the Dragon clan bloodline directly filled the ancient battlefield. Suddenly, the Dragon clan demon clan in the ancient battlefield were all suppressed by the power of the Dragon clan bloodline. Originally, the patriarch of the Dragon Python clan naively thought that the bloodline suppression produced by Long Mu's true body was already at its peak. But now, when Long Mu really released the power of his dragon bloodline to the peak, the Dragon Python clan's bloodline was already at its peak. The patriarch could not help but fall into a dilemma. If they were to fight, it would consume a lot of his mental and physical strength to deal with the suppression of the Dragon clan bloodline. If Long Mu had other means, it would be very disadvantageous for the Dragon Python Patriarch. If he retreated, the price he would have to pay would be immeasurable. Firstly, the Dragon Python clan leader had violated the rules set by the 4 great demon clans by entering the ancient battlefield. Thinking about it, the other 3 clan leaders must have noticed some abnormalities in the ancient battlefield at this time. Coupled with the fact that he had appeared in front of the other 3 clan leaders, this matter had probably been exposed. In this case, the other 3 chiefs would definitely use this matter as an excuse to carry out some unnecessary measures against him. This was a little difficult for the Dragon Python Patriarch. He had to accept it. Secondly, since he already had 2 identities in the ancient battlefield, the Dragon Python Patriarch was determined to get those spiritual treasures and Dharma techniques obtained from the big formation where Long Chen was. After all, the spirit cultivation method that Long Chen had obtained was the Dragon Python clan's. The Dragon Python Patriarch had been searching for it for nearly thousands of years. Giving up at this time was equivalent to giving up this spirit cultivation method. In this case, the Dragon Python Patriarch's promotion to the 9th layer of Hong Meng Tianjing was still far away. In this dilemma, no matter what the Dragon Python Patriarch chose, there would be great risks and losses. On the other side, Long Yuan and Long Chen met. Master. Long Yuan's lips wriggled for a long time before he called out this title that he had not called out for more than 5 years. For a moment, Long Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. In this situation, he did not know what to say. Looking at Long Yuan, who was full of vigor at this time, Long Chen said with a trembling voice, "I finally found you. I am a master. It's really ridiculous." Long Yuan quickly felt the heavy injuries on Long Chen's body, and hurriedly went forward to support Long Chen. At this time, Long Yuan also saw Jian Shisan, who had fainted on the ground. "Master, isn't that Jian Shisan's senior brother?" Long Chen exclaimed. Long Chen nodded weakly and said, "Yes, it is indeed Jian Shisan. He is also in the Long Meng polar region." Long Yuan took Long Chen to Jian Shisan's side, and conveniently took out some elixirs with strong medicinal fragrance, and handed them to Long Chen. Then, Long Yuan released a gentle Hong Meng power to examine Jian Shisan's body. Fortunately, he did not hurt his foundation, but his own Hong Meng loss was too much. When senior brother wakes up, he will be fine after a period of recuperation. Long Yuan let out a long breath. Long Chen swallowed the spirit pill, and his body glowed with primordial energy that was rich with vitality. It slowly nourished the damaged meridians in his body. "Master, Long Yuan has not finished speaking." Long Chen waved his hand and said, "Let's talk about these things later. My injuries are too serious now, and I really don't have much energy. I am very happy to see you and Long Mu. But now I am afraid I have to ask you to protect me. I have to adjust my breath. Otherwise, I am afraid I will not be able to hold on until I leave here." Looking at Long Chen's dignified expression, Long Yuan quickly nodded and said, "Master, don't worry. With me here, no one can hurt you." Long Chen nodded and looked up at the sky, and just happened to meet Long Mu's eyes. The two looked at each other for a long time, and almost at the same time, a smile appeared on their faces. This kind of smile did not reflect Long Chen's happiness, but this kind of smile could give people a sense of security. Even though the two of them hadn't spoken a single word, the thousands of words that they wanted to say to each other had already turned into moist jade droplets that sprinkled into their hearts as they looked at each other. Thinking back to those years, when Long Mu was still living and cultivating in the Dragon Palace in Long Chen's body, the two communicated telepathically, and had a tacit understanding that ordinary people could not do. At this moment, Long Mu thought of many things. From the first time he had woken up and seen Long Chen in Dragon Palace, to how he had helped Long Chen overcome all obstacles and increase his strength, to how he had repaired Long Chen's soul, to how he had rebuilt his body, and finally how they had experienced a great battle of life and death. Don't. Drop by drop, full of memories. After Long Chen entered the world of the star pool, Long Mu and Long Yuan also searched for a long time, and even waited around the star pool for nearly half a year until they could not find his whereabouts. Then they left the star pool and came to the Long Meng polar region. However, whether it was Long Mu or Long Yuan, they were sure of one thing, and that was that Long Chen was definitely still alive, and would definitely reunite with them soon. After waiting for year after year, finally, today, Long Chen came, Long Mu and Long Yuan also came. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.